Okay, I think we're live. Let's try it out. Mics are up.
All right, welcome
All
back
right.
to Tough Talk 2020. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, join the conversation. Use the hashtag Tough Talk 2020. We're still watching all the latest numbers coming in as we are 35 minutes past the 10 o'clock hour. A lot of attention still focused on Pennsylvania right now. Trump has a sizable lead, but we're still kind of 45% of the vote in as we wait for those rural counties to come in to vote. You know, Pennsylvania, it's all about Pennsylvania. It's the Keystone State, and many people are saying that may be the state that kind of caused this election. Both the vice president and the president, the former vice president and the president have spent a lot of time there. And we kind of want to go back to our conversation in terms of this whole
Here's the
instance
Pennsylvania
of as we look at Pennsylvania up there on our screen and on TV, as they kind of break down county by county. Like you said earlier, Dave, that's very interesting, right? The hometown of Joe Biden is all red. He couldn't even win Scranton, Pennsylvania. I'm sure a big disappointment for him as he spent most of his early years there. You know, we'll see. We're going to see what happens.
That's it.
We set our predictions.
So I was just sent a clip from The Sun, which is a bit of a tabloid. Fight House. Cops clash with BLM and Antifa protesters in ugly scenes outside the White House as they vow to stay for weeks.
All right. And we do know there was a
That's
big wall
that's
put
that's
up.
something that we just spoke about.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Leading into our
So
conversation.
again, so I pose it out there. Oh, look at Richie Torres. All
This
right.
is not Fox
no,
5.
no, that's
One of-
the Fox News channel.
Oh, sorry.
This is actually he's a one of
We can give a little listen.
my representatives.
Fox.
Is he
Fox
accepting?
News.
Did he win?
And we'll have much more reaction from candidates in the
Okay.
local races coming up, so stick around.
Well, that didn't do us any good, did it?
So I'll bring it up. I'll bring it up again. So I pose the question.
Oh, CNN is standby for projection.
Okay.
Our viewers at home have it.
Okay.
I think they're going to project Pennsylvania.
Are they?
Lycoming County. You should throw it up there for you guys.
I'm looking for CNN now.
Yeah, all the rural counties are overwhelmingly Trump. Overwhelming.
This is ABC.
Go to CNN. They're addressing, John King's addressing Pennsylvania right now. Actually, my home county of Clearfield County is not showing up in a color yet.
There we go.
63 to 36 if you round it up. 64 to 33. It's pretty close. We'll see Biden maybe a little bit higher than Hillary Clinton 4 years ago. That could matter if it's very close. And we'll watch Allegheny as well, but a long way to count.
Quick break. We have a lot more coming up right after this.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So I'll bring it back to the question. So, how much unrest do we predict for after this election? Will we see the unrest immediately if we get an election determination within a few hours, or will it take to the end of the week? And where will that unrest come from? Will it come from the right or will it come from the left? Will it come from Trump supporters or will it come from Biden supporters? So I posed that question and a little while ago, if you've been tuned in, and we want to hear from you. So what do you think? Right? We've seen New York City, which is a Democratic
Not just New York
state.
City, too,
right?
though.
Not just New York City, but just Chicago, all of these
all
cities
around,
that
yeah.
are predominantly controlled, urban communities that are controlled by Democratic vote, and we want to know why are they protecting themselves? Is it because they feel that they're going to get an opposition from Trump supporters if he should lose, or is it because there's going to be an opposition because from Biden supporters if he loses? So I pose that question to our viewers, and we want to hear you chime in.
I want to say that I think it's my opinion is I think that we're on both sides of the table here, right? And businesses are just taking overall precautions in the first place. One, because they don't want their businesses destroyed, and two, they're already fighting what they need to fight in terms of surviving because of pandemic and how we're adjusting to reopening and opening, right? So it's one less expense that we have. Many people will argue that, it's more so because of what reaction would be if Joe Biden, unfortunately, or Joe Biden doesn't win tonight, doesn't pull off a victory, and then Trump has 4 more years in the White House, right? But again, and I think here in New York and all around places as well, I think there is a lot to say too about how divided our country is and how much there is on that opposite side of disappointment if Joe Biden would win as well, and what unrest that may cause if he wins on the other side of the political spectrum. So I think it overall deals with the instance of just how polarized our country is, and what we were saying earlier in terms of what the next 4 years is, how much unity is important, because we shouldn't have to have an election and know that after an election that brings America together when we know if there's a decided winner or loser and how we come together to get the issues right. That's part of the fabric of our country. And now in this day and age, because of our polarization, now we have to worry about businesses having to close up or board up in the middle of a pandemic just based upon what a democratic right is.
So, $1 million question, and it's going to be a culminating question as this happens. And hopefully, praying, God willing, that it doesn't happen. But the $1 million question then would become, would it be a reflection? Would it be a reflection to each candidate as to how this plays out, and if one or the other, wins or loses, right? Would it be a reflection to the candidate? We've already established that Trump has been divisive, right? So now if Trump wins and we have rioting and looting, wouldn't that be a form of divisiveness that would be a reflection of Biden? So I'm just asking that question to our viewers. I'm asking that question to you guys. I'm posing that tough talk. Let's go.
Hey, I don't think it's any referendum on Joe Biden.
I don't agree
at all. Yeah. I hope it wouldn't be a referendum on President Trump if he were to win, in terms of what he will say and afterwards, and what his actions would be if he would win, in order to help unify the country.
Key race alert.
Key race alert. We got Joe
Wisconsin.
Biden.
No, they had Arizona up there.
And he had 75% in, and he was leading by a
large
margin.
Yeah. So,
Now in
Large
Minnesota
marge.
with 10 Minnesota with 10 electoral votes in play, he's up by a sizable amount. And then Iowa with 6 electoral votes.
Too early to determine. It was only 25% in.
He's currently leading.
you have Wisconsin up there too, right? Out there, they just switched the numbers there on the TV screen. How much was he up? What was the percentage of the country?
Like 50 to 47.
50 to 47 of the lead. So we're getting closer as we're hitting that 11 o'clock hour.
The scoreboard has also changed. CNN has it at 98 Biden, 95 Trump. Is there any other network that has a different
score?
Dave?
I don't know. You
Pardon?
got to switch. You got
Then
No, I just need to
switch.
update ours. I just did.
98, 95?
You got to switch. Go to the
94 or 95? Oh, 95.
Yeah,
Right.
98 Biden, 95 Trump.
Closing the gap, boys and girls.
Closing
So-
the gap.
How much do you think? So I'm just gonna.
If that map holds, look at that. Oh, that's 2016. Never mind.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sorry.
Don't
How
get too
much-
excited there, Rasha. Don't get
How
too
much do you
excited.
think religion? So I gotta pose this question, right? How much do you think religion has played a role in this presidential election?
It always plays a role.
It always plays a role, but I
Plays a role
feel
in every
personally, I feel
election.
it hasn't. It's almost been taboo, this election.
Well, President Trump is using the coronavirus and the instance of
Torres is in.
the instance of the fact that many governors, state governors, didn't want to open churches to allow people to worship and pray during the coronavirus, as a way in terms of always getting that important evangelical Catholic vote, and in terms of the Democratic people going in, if elected, and getting.
I want him to go to CNN.
Oh,
CNN.
Oh,
Every state.
oh my gosh!
Trump's leading.
Do you hear that? Dave said he wants Desmond to go to CNN.
As
If I-
opposed to Fox News?
If I
Well, I said go to CNN. Don't run around naked. I said go to CNN. Not that shocking.
I just find it, as far as religion, I feel
Florida. There's the Florida numbers.
I feel like the previous two elections, it was really religion was a deciding factor, where as opposed to this election, religion really, to me, I don't know if each candidate used it as much as they've done in the last maybe 3-4 elections.
Yeah, and it really is something that comes to show that that's not something that's talked about. And each election cycle, Ivan, always has an ebbs and flows, right? You know, last year, the last election cycle, immigration was of key, and the election cycle always comes, particularly in the final months and years. It comes as we get through the events of our country and how that shapes presidential elections, surprises that happened the months before or whatnot. So, listen, David, you're talking about PA. What's the latest they're saying with PA here? What are you saying?
I'm still waiting for my source from inside Pennsylvania to send me an update. He's been very good about sending me updates, but I haven't seen one lately.
Yeah.
But I'm just watching these numbers coming in on CNN, and
Yeah.
every state that flashes across the bottom, it's a Trump lead, a Trump lead, a Trump lead.
Yeah.
And in Wisconsin.
Oh, there's in Arizona. He's losing Arizona.
Arizona, he's losing.
Arizona, he's losing with.
But Arizona's not going to be a
Wisconsin,
make or break
Michigan.
state.
Yes, it is.
It's not going
So
to
they
decide the
say?
election.
Well,
Look at there's
29.
Florida with 94% of the vote.
That's a
it's a big deal though in terms of
electoral vote.
him
That's a
winning
lot.
Arizona and Arizona voting Republican in the last 4 races that he was able to
That's
turn
true.
around. So
Georgia, he's in a handy lead. Florida, he's up 4 points with 94% of the vote in. So that's probably going to stick. So Florida's going to be probably a victory. I would think.
Michigan is a sizable league too.
Yeah, and that was the one that they were hoping to
11%.
hold.
but that's
in that
still
blue
we're still
wall.
not even at 50% of the votes counted
But,
in yet.
no,
So
that's true, but it's
So
still
I don't think that's too
now
early
North
to call
Carolina
to
is
say.
interesting.
North Carolina is a toss, and Texas is a toss still.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wisconsin right now still
Tight.
40%,
But if-
still tight.
1.7%.
But if Trump wins Pennsylvania, Florida, Michigan, and I think he's leading in Wisconsin, that puts him over the mark, doesn't it? Biden can't take it with just Texas and North Carolina and Arizona.
Well,
No,
yeah,
he
Texas,
needs Ohio.
Arizona.
He would need Ohio
He'll
and
need
Michigan
Ohio.
and
He's not gonna get
Wisconsin and Wisconsin. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's too early to call to say that.
Definitely.
I think North
Unless you're
Carolina's
giving
tight, too.
giving a prediction right now that he's going to win that.
I'm not going to go that far.
Yeah.
You guys want to listen to
CNN
John
is
Roberts?
projecting the fact that Arizona, PA, Michigan, and Wisconsin will determine the election, which you did say.
Hillary Clinton won along the border here.
They're giving Wisconsin to him.
Come back and look at 2020. The president's
To
leading
Trump.
there right now, but again, 43%
Well, this is
of the vote
2016
in.
right now. He's
Oh,
looking at
okay.
it. But in that previous map,
What the votes are,
so he flipped that county this year.
Yeah.
In a
Very
big way.
interesting to see how this kind of comes in and how we
Look
watch
at those
it.
county numbers.
You see, it was 48 to 45. This is
What I
Rapids
really
is a
want to
big
know, we're
city.
looking at these numbers, but I guess we have to wait to see how and the opinions behind what the exit polling is with this. I wonder how that works too. Like,
Every bit of polling I saw while I was making dinner before you guys got here, they were mostly asking what was the most important issue to you. And far and away, economy. Economy, even more than coronavirus. Because at the end of the day, the economy affects
People
what you bring
care
home in your
about
paycheck, what you put
being
food on the
able
table.
to what they bring home,
Yeah.
and being able to pay
I-
their mortgages and their rent and their.
And I
their
think
bills.
that economy, if it's economy stupid,
Illinois,
it's a Trump victory.
CNN predicts Illinois for Biden.
but there are
Joe
many.
vote.
Well, then that will determine too whether or not those in the minority community go.
Oh, we got an update from Pennsylvania.
go and vote, because the reality is the economy is important and it affects everyday Americans. But many people feel that Trump's economy is only affecting those in the greater 1%.
What do you have
So-
to say, Dave?
So
Pennsylvania, my Pennsylvania source, this is coming right from the Pennsylvania Board of Elections website. I don't know the percentage counted. Maybe my source can send me the percent. Last time he sent it to me, it was 28% counted.
28%
I don't know what the number is now, but the lead is widening, right? We have Donald Trump at 57.94%
Wow.
in Pennsylvania, and Joe Biden at 40.8%, and that's with 40% of the state vote counted.
Wow.
That's significant.
Well, it will be significant
When
as to
you
whether
get
or
those
not
ballots
Pennsylvania,
counted.
right, those other ballots counted, and whether or not Pennsylvania will be the state that wins this election.
I think
true.
it might be.
You know,
I think it might be.
I think it's Pennsylvania and North
Well,
Carolina.
look at it says right now. So it does go along
Here's
with...
CNN's
Here
numbers.
it is. Here it is. So it goes along with what Dave just reported. I wish it was a...
it was
rewind.
30.
Right.
It was 30% of the.
It was
Look
it's
how
30.
close Wisconsin is.
It's 37% of the vote in
Look
Pennsylvania.
how
In
close
though we're still not
Wisconsin
at
is.
50.
1.5% lead.
Right, and we're there.
With
Georgia
Georgia,
now is
Georgia,
looking
he
now,
increased. He was losing Georgia. He's now increased in
and
Georgia.
and we're at
from
60% of the
55
vote,
to 43 at 65% of the vote,
or 60%
so
of the
that
vote.
is a that is a table turn.
Arizona. Joe Biden is leading in Arizona.
Yeah, it looks
with
like he's going to hold on to
75%.
that.
Looks like he's going to hold on
But
to
it
that.
looks like Trump's going to win Georgia.
Yes.
Do you think Arizona is a result of John McCain's tit for tat
Minnesota?
with Trump? You think Arizona people were loyal to McCain, and when they had that conflict, they're like, forget him.
No,
I think when he mocked McCain, I don't think people forgot that.
yeah,
Because McCain was an Arizona hero,
Yes.
you know,
yeah.
and that.
Yeah,
when he
But you
passed
know
away,
what? They
that did not go
still.
well.
I mean, all their Senate, their local assembly and Senate, their governor. You know, the whole thing with the wall.
Have all been, yeah,
Those have been
conservative supporters.
So
So look at the rate, the road to 270. Biden's at 118 according to CNN, and Trump is at 105. Except
Still
for
too
the
close
very
to call.
onset of this race, where Trump had 11-0. He has not been in the lead the entire night.
no.
but
Well, did that happen in 2016 too?
No.
right.
No, he
Yeah,
took the lead, and
no,
he
he took the
took
lead,
the lead
and
early
it
on,
just-
and he just started.
It just
I'd be
Yeah.
curious to see what Fox News has the numbers at. I
I
can change our feed over here to Fox News if you want me to.
I think what's
So now they're
interesting
saying
right
Florida
now.
goes Trump.
Look,
If Texas goes Trump, I don't know about Texas. It's too close.
Texas is
Get
very
John,
close.
click Pennsylvania.
And so is North
John needs to click
Carolina.
Pennsylvania.
North Carolina is very close right now too.
He needs
and
to
we're
click
we're
Pennsylvania.
at almost 90% of the vote in. So,
So I
the,
think
the-
he needs to
click on
the big
Pennsylvania.
I
question
think the
here
media is
is
just trying to make it interesting, so we just keep on tuning
yeah.
in.
I mean the big question here is how do the mail-in counts factor in with these counts?
Well, that's the thing. So
Well-
an issue that came up recently was somebody who voted early and passed away.
Yes, and the vote was thrown out.
before today.
Right.
And the vote was thrown out. So
As it should be.
So I keep asking you guys, viewers, we need to hear from you. What do you think? Do you think it should have been thrown out?
I think if you're not alive on the day that the vote is counted, it should be disqualified.
Blasphemy. No, I'm just kidding.
I think it should be thrown out.
I'm
That's
kidding, I'm
something.
kidding. Because somebody,
Yep. I think it should be thrown out. If you're not
I
alive
also,
on the day of the
agree.
election,
I wholeheartly agree.
yeah, I think it should be thrown out.
I think it's unfortunate. You know, they tried, but no cigar.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
they-
it.
Let's-
You needed to make it to November 4th.
Let's get some YouTube comments here. We got Donald Roush
Uh-oh, a Roush.
tuning in from the natural state of Arkansas.
Oh,
He says he's claiming that our country's culture, the Democrats, liberals are bullies, okay? He said they shout down any Trump supporters constantly. That's why polls are bunk, because nobody wants to admit publicly that they support Trump. One of my students chimes in that he also agrees Trump has it in the bag. He agrees with my brother. He says, my brother says, in my opinion, Biden never had a shot at Pennsylvania or Michigan because of the strict COVID policies of those states' Democratic governors. That's some great analysis from Arizona,
Wow.
from Arkansas.
Well, my response to Donnie about that is Michigan had overall a major increase when it came to the summer wave, which was the reason why there needed to be the shutdown that happened in Michigan. And while many people were criticizing those who were protesting for George Floyd and the aftermath of that incident, Breonna Taylor, meantime, people were storming the state capitol with guns, essentially bullying the governor of Michigan to open up the state.
This is a grand
despite what's
assumption.
going on. Hey, no, wait! Don't turn that down, because we got to mention that. I'm responding to the viewer what they're saying in terms of, one, Democrats being bullies, and two, the reopening of Michigan. Okay.
Sorry. So here they're giving Michigan to Biden. And
Right.
I don't think that's going to happen. And I'm not even sure about Wisconsin either.
But this is I don't know why he's making the prediction that way.
He's starting from 2016 results.
16.
Oh,
They're starting with 2016 and flipping states is what they're doing.
that's really close.
So they're
if
saying
that
he
happens.
flipped Arizona, Trump flipped Nebraska. There's the 2016 results. Now they're going to start flipping states. Like, you want to listen in? Let's listen.
Yeah, let's listen in.
As you're watching the map throughout the night, in any election, again, we are 10:55. In any presidential election that's close, we're just getting started.
That's
We're
right.
just getting started. That would be the case 4 years ago, 2004, pick your close election. That's the case. This year's even more different because of the three different ways of voting and the different ways each state is handling that, right? The mail-in vote, the in-person early vote. And so here you go. We're going to look at it. 40% in. You see that big lead?
Oh, yeah, that's what I was looking at
Every
here.
reason to be happy about that.
See, my home county,
Absolutely
Clearfield
have
County, is
context.
still gray.
You have to have
That
the
gray
context.
county is where I'm
Come down
from.
here. This is Montgomery County, one of the big suburbs around Philadelphia, 29%. You go into Philadelphia, which is the biggest basket of votes, predominantly Democratic. Turnout here is absolutely key. We'll see if Democrats can deliver.
They're not
You're
gonna
only
vote.
20%
They
of
were
the vote
busy-
roughly
they were
there.
protesting.
Move up here, Bucks County. This is a more competitive suburban area, but you're still at 12%
Yeah,
of the vote.
it gives the
Move out here,
percentage
Chester
on the
County.
Board of
This is where
Elections
most of the
website,
votes
but
are
it doesn't
Pennsylvania.
give
Philadelphia,
the
suburbs
number of
that
votes
surround it, 30%.
recorded.
We just have a long way to go.
I wonder how
And we know
CNN is
David
doing
Chalian
that.
told us earlier, a lot of the votes that are missing are the early votes, which we believe are disproportionately Democrat. And even if we were just counting for one set of votes, even if we were just waiting for all the votes
Wonder why
counted
my
today,
county's not reporting.
what we have from this part of the state is so low that you just can't make conclusions. You just can't. We have to wait and see. And it looks good. The map looks at first glance to Republicans, but we're just nowhere near the finish line. Nor are we in Michigan. 39% of the estimate, 54 to 43. You think that's a big number? If you remember how close this was 4 years ago.
Clearfield County is still
10,000
not
votes,
reporting.
right? 10,000 votes decided this state 4 years
Clarion
ago.
County,
So it's just unrealistic.
overwhelmingly
Even if the
to
president's having
Trump.
a very good night, it's unrealistic
Any of those
that he's
rural
going to win
counties are
Michigan
gonna
by
suck.
Center,
238,000 votes.
Center's gonna
53,
be
45.
Maybe it's by more than 10,000 votes.
Center's
It's not
Biden.
going to be by 238,000 votes. We just know.
Carbon County, where my dad lives, has his home, 77%, 21%. Anyway, my prediction, Michigan is really going to be. It'll be between Michigan and Wisconsin that will determine how this election really moves.
My
in terms of
prediction is Biden flips PA.
Biden.
Really?
actually, yeah.
I
Biden
think
flips PA.
No.
Because
And that's solely
here-
on
here's what Kings just said.
The mail-in
That
votes.
the largest
No.
basket of votes come from Philadelphia,
Philadelphia,
area.
but Philadelphia
and right
is
now
not,
it's only
did not vote
30% of the
due
vote has
to-
been
due
counted.
to the rioting that has been happening. They feel disenfranchised, so therefore they're more they're more focused on
You know
the issue at hand rather than voting right now.
You're right that the mail-in vote, I mean, you look at the Pennsylvania numbers, was incredibly
Right.
in favor of Biden. But I think when it all comes out in the wash, am I muted? Check. There we go. I need to turn toward my mic.
All right.
I think at the end of the day, the rural voters came out in such spectacular fashion that they're going to wipe the mail-in votes off the map.
I don't think so.
Look at those
300,000
numbers.
strong?
Look at those numbers.
I don't believe so.
They already reported that Philadelphia. Okay, so we already know that the mail-in vote has been astronomical to the numbers that are higher than in anything in history,
Right.
But the only the one state that wasn't a factor for was Pennsylvania, and it was due to Philadelphia's low turnout of voting. Shout out to my godmother, by the way. love you, and I
What-
know she's watching.
what-
And I'm not sure if she's a resident of Pennsylvania, meaning because she does reside in Philadelphia, but she also resides in Delaware.
But we also
Alright.
have to make mention too that there are, although there weren't a lot of people that took place in today's election because of what happened 2 weeks ago with the voting. They did early voting too. I think they're early voting. When did early voting start for Pennsylvania? It started. It started.
We only had a month.
earlier
A
than,
lot of
than,
earlier-
than the
yeah.
earlier voters, and if that's a predominant amount, I don't think the effect over the last 2 weeks will have a
Guys,
dent.
I
in
don't
it.
know how many electoral college votes that it carries with it, but my friend in Pennsylvania is pointing out Maine has flipped to the Republicans. Clinton took Maine in
Last year.
2016,
Right.
and now Maine has been flipped to the Republicans.
All right.
Oh, projection.
How many
got a
electoral
projection.
votes there are there?
Biden wins
Oh, okay.
California.
Oh, there's a shocker.
He wins.
Prize of the Electoral College, 55 electoral votes. Biden
They just wanna get that
in
electoral
California
count up.
beats Trump in California. CNN also projects that Biden will
Washington.
win Washington State.
Yeah, all the West
Electoral
Coast.
Votes, he beats Trump in Washington
Oregon.
State. CNN also projects Biden will win
Yeah.
the state of Oregon. 7 electoral
There goes
votes
the West Coast blue
Biden
wall.
wins in Oregon right now. One projection for Donald Trump right now, CNN projects that Donald Trump will win the state of Wyoming. That's 3 electoral votes. In Idaho,
All right, we're
2
closing in
electoral,
on 11
4
oh,
electoral votes in Idaho.
actually
We
past
cannot
the
make
11
Idaho's
o'clock
too
hour.
close
Let's
to
take a look at
call.
the Electoral college map. See where it stands right now. Right now,
192,
Ooh.
108.
192.
Still too
electoral
early,
college
though.
votes. Trump has 108. 192 to 100.
It's very interesting Texas is still not closed yet.
Key race alert.
In Pennsylvania, 41%.
Too
of the
tight,
estimated
too close
vote
to
is now
call.
in. Trump has seemingly a pretty comfortable 444,000
Once they get to 60, you know that's
vote
cold.
lead over Biden, 56.8% to 41.5%. In Michigan right now, 39% of the estimated vote is in.
16,
Trump has
that's
a significant
36.
lead there right now as well, 239,000
The
voters.
two counties in
Relatively
Pennsylvania that
early,
haven't reported yet are
39%
rural
of the
counties.
estimated vote
Those will
is in.
overwhelmingly
Early
go Trump.
vote,
Wisconsin
excuse
is-
us, 25,000 vote
That's
lead over
46.
Biden, 50% to
That's close.
48.3%, 10 electoral votes in Wisconsin.
only 42%
In
Arizona
votes are
is
in.
another.
75%
Wait a minute,
11.
New York
Biden has a
16.
significant lead.
New York
That's
is.
not Andrew Ocasio.
208,000 vote lead
What's that?
over Trump, 53.7% to 45%.
Jamal Bowman beat her.
Oh no, that's
Oh,
that's Elliot Engel.
Yeah,
Oh,
Angle.
Angle.
Angle,
Okay.
yeah,
Yes.
Elliot Engel. So that's my district.
He
Sorry.
got caught saying, "I'm only here." So
Yeah,
That
I'm
was
only
caught on
here
News
because I have a
12.
coming
It was
up.
caught on News 12. Yeah.
I'm only here because I have a primary
Washington,
coming up.
Oregon,
Yeah.
California, blocks for the Democrats in presidential politics, and that's great. And those are great building blocks, right? They're not competitive anymore.
We
They're
don't need to hear
regional
John
pub-
King. We're here to talk about
Yeah, that's right. That's right. All right, now, so we're getting deeper in. I think it's still too close to call right now. It really shows about these swing states. My surprise here is that Texas still hasn't been called yet either.
Texas
Very
hasn't called
interesting to
yet,
see
and
that.
neither
Yeah,
has North Carolina.
yeah, not as North Carolina. I think Florida will be going to the president, although we haven't heard them talk about that much either within the last 15 minutes or so. So
Mike,
Oh.
I got to read some comments.
yeah.
This is coming from our good friend in the natural state. Let me get myself back up here.
Get them
Check
all
1,
in.
2.
If anybody's commenting or asking questions, get them in.
Now, what we need people to do is just share our stream out because we only got 13 viewers right now.
That's right.
So
That's what I've
our
been
good
doing,
friend in the
yeah.
natural state says, regardless of what they had to lock it down, these policies were wildly unpopular. We're talking about COVID lockdowns. These governors caused many voters to punch the R button. The vast majority of our country does not support lockdowns. More modest or reasonable restrictions could have helped the COVID situation without leaving a sour taste in the mouth of the masses. Now he's talking about the Electoral College. Pump the count so it can stall out. Trump comes from behind, and Jake Tapper will be crying by 1 a.m.
Wow.
Come, listen.
What's his name? The other dude.
Thanks for your comments, by the way. Definitely something interesting to say. Listen, there's always the big debate that goes on in terms of the coronavirus and reopening, right? That's happening till this day. I mean, I think there's no question that there is this third wave, but there's also the instance of, listen, businesses need to survive. How do we do that? And maybe that's something that the White House administration was criticized on because there wasn't enough type of national policy to put in place that maybe
Right.
would have ended the coronavirus earlier, which would allow these businesses to open. But that may be the liberal side of the argument or whatnot. Any opinion is taken lightly. In terms of here, we'll see what happens here coming up within this next hour as we, now start the 11 o'clock hour and get closer to midnight and seeing more of those West Coast polls closing, but more so what's going to be the latest with the count, and particularly those key swing states, right? Any more comments, Dave?
Not yet.
Not yet? All right, very good. Well, okay. We're here, we're watching the election.
That's right.
Let's kind of reminisce, if we can. 4 years ago around this time, most people were crying in the nation, huh?
The Javits Center's glass ceiling was
Oh my gosh.
solidly intact.
Hillary Clinton didn't come out. People were there waiting. It was something. Now we're all waiting in this instance as we wait to see what happens here. My prediction here is I still don't know if we will know who is the president when we wake up tomorrow morning. I don't think we're still going to know that. And I don't know if we're going to hear.
When was the last time that it happened?
We're going to hear a concession speech.
Did that
Gore?
ever happen?
Gore Bush. We didn't
Gore
know.
Bush, but we had a projected winner.
No, we didn't.
Yes,
And
we did.
No, we didn't. That's why there was the popular vote.
Didn't Gore do a concession speech and then no, he made a call to Bush and then retracted it?
That's correct.
That's right. He didn't make a speech.
That's correct, because we were still waiting to see what the
very
Secretary
true.
of State of Florida was going to do at that time. So I don't think any of them are going to be making a concession speech tonight. I mean, that's my prediction. I could be wrong, but
I think so.
Should we monitor another network for fun?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so on our internet feed, I'm going to change
Here,
networks.
let's switch on over to.
Well, you want to
You want to
go?
watch MS
Fox News?
DNC?
No, we're
or
not going to
Fox
watch
News?
MSDNC. No.
Of course. David, not a fan of NBC News. Huh?
I don't mind them, but they are who they are.
That goes Fox.
All right, now our viewers at home have Fox News.
Look at the headline here. President Trump wins crucial 29 Florida electoral votes.
They're calling
so they
Florida.
called Florida.
Fox News just called Florida.
Oh, just called Florida. All right. We'll see. 29 electoral
What does
votes
that bring
is
the
big.
count to?
What does that bring the count to? It's got to be
137?
190. Yeah.
Well, they've got a totally different count than CNN. Their count's totally different.
Yeah.
They've got him leading North Carolina now, too,
Yeah.
which would be interesting.
North Dakota to Trump.
And they have, I wonder what's the total electoral count here.
Texas or Nebraska to Trump. And they have him up. No, that's not the race. That's a different race.
Yeah, those are
Nevada.
house raises. Those are house
Okay,
races.
they gave New Hampshire to Biden.
Biden, we knew that from this morning.
That's awesome.
New Jersey to Biden. That was questionable. New Jersey was questionable, and he won by a significant amount.
New Mexico.
Well, Trump needed definitely to win Florida. I think he would have had that back. He just became a full-time resident there.
I wonder what the
But this really shows a referendum too about how, despite having strongholds of Orlando, Miami, and Tampa, I think Biden didn't spend enough time in Florida. And I think
here goes the Monday morning quarterback.
I thought there was a large contingent of people, especially the
Who wanted to
Cuban
know
people,
him more as a
who wanted to
candidate.
hear more as a candidate. Didn't turn over, particularly when it comes
Cubans are
to
terrified
the Latino vote. So
Cubans are terrified of Biden.
Why is that? Expound more on that. Say more.
I have a very close friend who happens to be Cuban. And this person expressed to me that they feel like everything they've seen the Democratic Party doing reminds them of Cuba going into communist rule.
yeah, if
And that came from a Cuban immigrant, the first generation born here, I think,
Yeah.
of a Cuban family.
wow.
Or they think this person was
Very
born in
interesting. Miami, Broward, Miami-Dade County, those still went blue. That's where most of them live. So,
Cuba. Yeah, Cubans are not for Biden.
I mean, I mean, whether or not they'll have that was a referendum, but not Monday morning quarterbacking there, buddy. Just analyzing.
are. Sure
It's analyzing
Dave,
like we do.
let's go to some questions or anything from our
Well,
viewers.
that's assuming we have them. Let's take a look. Mm-hmm. All right, let's go over to YouTube.
But yeah. So
Just Arkansas chiming in.
See how they checked
Arkansas
Biden
says
for Virginia?
Biden didn't spend enough time anywhere.
That's Virginia, right?
You don't get voters to turn out by sitting in your basement.
well, you don't stop.
who
you
said
don't
that he was
stop
in the
the,
basement
You don't
besides
stop the
Trump?
coronavirus by
having super spreader events without a mask.
Without a mask, but complain about the country reopening.
Do we have a new YouTube link or is it the same one?
No, same one.
I think it's the same one. I did
think-
send out did it change?
I think it changed.
Do you guys want to retweet it out?
Yeah, let's
You gotta-
try
you
that.
gotta-
Ray, I tagged you.
You gotta tag me or you gotta
On
text
Facebook?
it to me. Text it to
Right,
me.
because people are saying they're watching something.
Yeah.
different.
All right, let me get the link out to you guys.
Thank
Sorry
you.
about that. We got the synchronization issue fixed.
Oh,
At
very
least now
nice.
we know if it happens again, it's this box down here.
Oh,
Text
it's
it
the
to me.
box. Oh, this was the new one. Okay.
Just text it to me so I could just copy and paste.
Let's go here. More options.
Ivan, what's your number?
Ivan.
718. You know it?
And Desmond.
And then I think this one is it. Here.
Yeah, it is a new one.
Sorry about that. I wonder why you only had 12 viewers.
Here we go. Let's get it back.
Wow, the microphone sounds really good here. Okay, very good. Very good. All right. So how do we feel about Florida? A lot of prediction. Look, it's so funny because right now what's going on, everyone's sharing the link. You know, this really confounds upon the power of social media, right? And could you just imagine 10 years ago we didn't have the ability to kind of go live to so many people and have the click of our buttons and phones to do this? It's just so interesting
This is true.
how we all tweet it out, right? So,
Ray, I tweeted it and I tagged you, so you should have
yep,
retweeted it.
yep. I did that right now on Facebook, and then I'm going to retweet this as well. Thank you so much for doing that.
All right. Now I wonder what happened to our views. Now I got 15.
You gotta tell them please share out. It's gonna get ugly.
Yep.
I'm texting everybody I know.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for putting that into the group chat too. You know, this question comes about, I wonder if all
Oh
this
shoot, I shouldn't be texting people. It's after 11 o'clock.
get out the vote. Oh,
I didn't realize how late it was.
Wake up, wake
Oh,
up.
they're
wake
not
up.
sleeping.
Some of
Who's
them are my
sleeping?
Some of them are my coworkers.
They'll get over it.
All right, let me.
Who's yawning over there?
Excuse me.
It's too early for that. Yeah, I'm not going to text anybody else because it's late.
Okay.
County breakdown.
I have it on Facebook. I put it on my Twitter.
Oh, county breakdown. Well, you guys have an attorney general's race too.
Who's that?
State of Pennsylvania.
All right, let's get back to it.
Clearfield, by the way, still doesn't have any counts voted. Clearfield County.
Does
Is
anybody know someone named Norberto?
Yeah.
Norberto's watching.
All right,
All right,
Norberto, thank you
Norberto.
so much for watching. Why is it that Clearfield County doesn't have
I don't know. Maybe
Counts-
our Pennsylvania source can fill us in.
counts
on that.
voted yet? Is the election process over there that antiquated and slow?
Oh wow! Our Pennsylvania source sent me a screenshot. What's changed from 2016 in precincts where voting is complete? This is here are shifts in precincts where we believe nearly all votes have been counted. Majority Hispanic, up 12 points, vote shift. Okay. Cuban neighborhoods up 14%, 14 points rather, from 50. That's not right. But yeah, this is an incredible screenshot. I think it's from the New York Times. So it's showing that suburban Trump made gains. So this is very interesting. So this screenshot says, and forgive me for looking away from the camera.
Yeah.
Biden's growth was among majority of age 65 and older, 1.5 points, and a half a percentage point of white, less college educated. Trump gained in suburban 1 point, rural 2 points, majority black 2 points, high income 2 points, majority college grads 3 points, urban areas 6 points, law and order. They don't want the riots. Majority Hispanic 12-point gain, Cuban neighborhoods 14-point gain.
And that's
the
in
proof
PA
is
or
in the
Florida?
pudding. What's that?
PA or Florida?
No, this is in precincts where they believe nearly all the votes have been counted. It doesn't
Wow.
specify state.
Wow.
That's incredible. That's an incredible shift. If those numbers hold out,
Biden's in trouble.
yeah.
And I saw Sessions for a senatorial race. Is that Jeff Sessions?
Yes, he was rerunning for his
For his
seat.
seat.
that
I
he
think they
lost.
called it for him.
Yeah.
I don't like Fox News' graphics package.
Yeah, it's very.
It's hard on the eyes.
Yes.
Like oversaturated.
Yes.
I think I'm gonna go back to CNN.
I like it.
You like it? You would like it.
I'm a teacher. What do you
Balance of
expect?
power, 44 in the House, 44 to 42.
I'm going back to CNN. I like their map analysis. They like to do the maps. Let's bring that up for our
All
viewers.
right,
at
right
home.
now, Joseph.
But they're also they're also doing the balance of power as well, where CNN wasn't really focused on that.
Yeah, that's true. It's important, but let's see
That
who's
is
gonna be
important.
president.
So right now we're at 44.
Democrats
For-
and
42 Republicans.
with 2 independents, which typically swing Democrat.
Right now, Donald Trump has a 200,000.
They have 207,
vote-
148
They have a
Fox News.
200,000 vote lead in Texas right now. Still too close to call.
Wow. So it's at 207, 148.
That's the Fox News decision desk is really aggressive.
They called Virginia for Biden.
Interesting.
Did you see that?
I did.
So he's coming up. I mean, he's getting closer.
Go back to CNN real quick. They're analyzing Pennsylvania. Oh, did you just suck your teeth at me?
No, I didn't.
I heard it in my headphones.
No,
It's
I
a
was
lot for
clearing
him
my
to
teeth.
flip on his phone.
That was the
and
Jamaican.
It's
Yeah, that was the West Indian.
That's a word in
response.
Jamaica.
That's right. That's it.
See,
Got
there's
his own
Pennsylvania.
meeting.
Clearfield County still not reporting. The only county not reporting. Watch this come down to Karen Gralla's vote being ripped out of its envelope and deciding the president.
That means a lot of people then in that county then did mail-in voting. Something.
Oh,
That
absolutely.
Which means overwhelmingly is Democratic.
Or
No. Clearfield
They said-
County.
you know what's
They
interesting?
said 3-1.
Most of those
Mississippi.
people who are voting for Trump.
Donald
though,
Trump was just declared the winner of Mississippi.
Most of those people, though,
192
how
to
come his
114.
election
These
count's not
numbers are
going up
so
high?
off from what Fox has.
I told you.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Fox is very aggressive.
Fox is, yeah, they're aggressive about it.
Very aggressive. Very aggressive.
The whole presidency comes down to my home county.
But many of those
Interesting.
many of those people
Minnesota.
probably did mail-in voting, something that you guys criticized about. Or no, I guess it was unsolicited.
Either that or we just count a little slower than everyone else.
Minnesota,
1,
2,
Arizona.
3.
I'm trying to go on. Forgive my silence, viewers. I'm just trying to go on each of the state election results to kind of see if there are particular numbers we could break down, just like the way in which the New York Times broke down numbers in terms of particular voters in a certain state. It's very interesting to see this data. So,
Whoa,
Hi.
that's 2016.
Yeah, they're talking about flipping states again. So he flipped Arizona.
just don't see. So right now, they still didn't call. CNN still hasn't called Florida for Trump. So given the fact that 114 plus 29 would
Pennsylvania's gone red.
put him at what's that? What they put him at?
Let's listen to John King.
We haven't called it yet. The president's ahead. The president holds Ohio. Iowa, let me.
He's holding Ohio?
I just want to take a peek.
holding
Iowa is still blue. I just want to go
This could be
and take a look at
2016
it.
all over again.
Here,
Could be a blowout.
59%.
So now it would be 143
See
to
what happens?
192
That'll be
with
interesting if that one
Florida.
switched. But at the moment, we'll just leave it here until we know otherwise. We'll leave it here. So here's where you get. Again, we have the congressional district here and the congressional district here that could change the math a little bit. But if you take these off the board, and if Joe Biden can't win
He's still
Ohio,
leading.
haven't called it yet. We have to wait. We're waiting on votes and everything like that. You're just looking for flips. So what happens if we're waiting on these states because they're having normal delays plus additional delays counting their votes? We could get to a point in a few hours when we start to fill in some of the ones that are left.
It'd be so hilarious
We're
if
somewhere in
Clearfield
this
County's like the
ballpark,
one county
and
left.
We're fighting it out.
Meanwhile, they have North Carolina
It'll be
red.
amazing to watch. Everybody's got to be patient.
I think it's
though,
too
and let
close to
everyone
call.
count the votes as
Right.
they should. That's what's critically important.
It
You
is
hear that,
crucial,
David?
so we're gonna get
These commentators' heads are going to spin tonight. You see them go 360 degrees on their neck.
The Secretary of State in all three of these states have told us, the chief election official here, Secretary of State here, and here, have told us this is going to take time. Please be patient.
Popular
because
vote.
of the difference between mail-in voting, in-person early voting, and then
Wow,
election
he's
day
winning the
surge.
popular vote.
Priority on election day is to deal with the people in the line, to deal with the coronavirus safety concerns, for example, to deal with ballot integrity and ballot security.
You know what's weird?
Have we thought about the fact
Then you
if
have to
Trump
count
won
all
the
those
popular
mail-in
vote
votes.
and
so you see red again.
and-
if you're a
and-
Republican,
and
you look at
and
this map,
Biden
this is a handstand
won
map,
the
but
Electoral
we're just not
College?
there yet.
No, we haven't.
We're really-
Well, the
that'd
same
be
thing happened
interesting.
with Trump and Hillary.
Keep going through them just to see.
Yeah.
Well, what
If the numbers
happens?
change
What
at
happens
all,
if
Delaware
Trump
County
I don't
does
think-
win?
does
What
I don't
happens
think-
if Trump wins the popular
County
vote?
up to 33%. We're at
but doesn't win the electoral vote. I don't think he'll.
I mean,
I don't think he'll
But
concede.
still 33%, and you see 209,000. You know, so you've got at least 300,000 plus. If it's a higher turnout election,
Check.
maybe 400,000 more
This
more
is so
votes
weird.
to win. So we're going to have to watch as this one plays out here. And again, you come into the counties around it. In Bucks County, that's 2016. Let me come back here to 2020. Still at 12%. Again, you know, it's frustrating to people who want to know, especially when you get to this point where if you're a Republican, you think the president's going to hold Florida, hold North Carolina, and hold Ohio. We're not sure about that yet. But if you're looking at the numbers right now, that's what you think.
Fox
if you're
News
a
will tell
Republican, you won't
you
get too much of an argument
Yeah.
from many Democrats until they see more evidence, until they see something change. They're not going to argue with you. So if you're a Republican and you're looking at that, you're thinking, okay, here we go again. And if we're defying the odds here, some people thought we were going to lose Florida. Doesn't look like we will. Some people thought we were going to lose North Carolina. The Republican starts to think, okay, well then we're going to do it here again too.
That's
but
right.
we just don't know that. We just don't know that, and because of the early counts, I just want to come back out here again. Pam mentioned Allegheny County.
When
Where
do
we
the
are,
election
we're
workers
at
turn in?
17%.
Is
So
there
just
is there a
focus-
time
focus.
limit?
You can look
I
at
don't
that,
think
or
so.
you can
So
look at
do they go
Again,
24
Florida
hours?
has
Like,
98,000
how does that work?
votes.
That's a
don't
great
know.
question.
I
Hillary Clinton
think it
carried
varies
4 years ago,
from state to state.
367,000 votes.
It's like, all right,
Higher
turn in.
turnout
We'll
election.
start
The
again
winner of this
counting
county
tomorrow.
is going to be north of that number, right? Most likely north of that number, at least equal to that number, and we're not even close. And so we just have to be patient and wait it out. That's Pennsylvania. Let's just pull it back.
So Allegheny County, it's only
We'll just do
9%
same
of the vote
experiment, right? Look
counted.
at Macomb County. Let's start in a place where the president.
Allegheny's going to go Biden. It's
That would be
Pittsburgh.
impressive. If the president can keep that lead in Macomb County.
So if Allegheny,
But that's
if
Pittsburgh, a large
Pittsburgh
part of the
and
confirmation.
Philadelphia both go Biden, and the
Which they
rest of
will.
the state doesn't, are those two counties enough to carry the
At least
state?
close to 2016. We don't
I don't
If
think
they have
so.
the numbers, no?
I don't think
Depends-
so.
I don't think so.
I don't think so, only because
Depends on their-
the voter turnout in the rural areas was insane.
143,000
Absolutely
votes now.
insane.
What does that
How do
tell
you know that?
Tells you we have to wait. We have to keep counting.
That's Dave
Because
Rouse.
my family's all there.
Wayne County, Joe Biden is ahead
That's
right
Dave
now
Rouse.
with 147,000
Was I wrong in
votes.
16?
You go
Oh,
back in
goodness.
time.
Oh
Oh,
Lord!
we're using the 4-year
Oh
prediction.
boy!
Well, at least we're not as shocked as we were the last time. We were just
Are
like,
we annually
Oh.
quarterbacking here?
Yeah, are we quadrennially quarterbacking? Is this the?
And we're just going to have to be patient, and the same story will
When you're right, you're right.
over in Milwaukee. I'll just bring up in Wisconsin.
Where
Let me mute
is
John
this-
King here.
Where is this? What you call it?
We're checking the YouTube comments.
So
Oh,
if-
Arkansas is still at it. Oh,
yeah.
we got some more stuff here.
all right, let's go.
So, Ann Stewart says Clearfield County won't be in until tomorrow.
right.
Took them along. Donnie says it took them long enough to call Mississippi. Clearfield has. I'm not going to read that comment. I'm not going to read that comment either. Ann Stewart says, "Come on, Ohio." Junior Ramirez says, "CNN is also fake news." Donnie says, "Those are 2016 results of Virginia blue and North Carolina red." Regarding what happens if Trump wins the popular vote, nobody gets to cry about him not winning the popular vote. Okay. Ann Stewart said, "Pittsburgh was pulling a lot of red this year." Wow. Okay, that would surprise me. And she says, "Miles of Amish buggies with Trump flags lining State Route 410 in Pennsylvania today."
Well, that would be that religious vote that I was talking about earlier. That really wasn't, hasn't been mentioned, and it hasn't been like at the forefront of issues.
Of issues, right? Yeah, the religious vote, absolutely. Allegheny County, by the way, still not even 40% of the vote counted in yet. So, all
here's
these
the
other
question.
counties too. Philadelphia is in. What county is Philadelphia in?
So my
Chester.
question is, Trump wins the election. What do the first 100 days look like?
We don't know because he never.
Well, it depends
laid
on what the
that out.
Democrats try to do to stop him
Well, why,
in his
if
tracks
he-
again.
if he
Another
would've-
impeachment?
But he never laid out a plan in the first place for
He
us
will.
to even know.
He will. It's really going to
hasn't done it
depend.
now,
It's
if
going to
that's-
depend on what happens in Congress.
Yeah.
Because if he gets Congress, it's off to the races. It's going to be Bill. Forget it.
That's true.
Okay?
There's-
If he
there's
gets
no-
Congress, it's off to the races.
That's right.
If he doesn't get Congress, it's going to be
Then-
executive
then-
order,
then
executive order,
it's about to say,
executive order,
then it's
executive order.
executive orders.
Yeah.
So what's the top 3 things you think
He's
goes
going to do a
after?
health care plan. He's going to do an immigration for the DACA kids, which I can't wait for him to do. I don't know what the third
Hopefully
one.
it's
I
the
know
law
he's
and
going to do
order.
those
Hopefully
two.
it's the law and order.
The stimulus
Stimulus is still
stimulus.
on.
Yes. Oh, stimulus will be tomorrow.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I think as soon as we know who the winner is, there's going to be a stimulus package.
So what if?
The only reason they wouldn't do
Need
stimulus
more
is
check
because
in your
Pelosi did not want Trump to be able to mail out a check with his name on it a
Absolutely.
week before the election.
For political reasons, and we
Exactly.
all know that.
And people are
but,
suffering.
and people, they don't care.
So
as long-
Trump loses.
That
Do we
wasn't
still have a
that
stimulus
wasn't the
package?
only reason.
It is.
Let's
Wait,
let's
wait.
no. Let's state
It
the
is.
truth here.
Wait.
Let's
So,
let's
here's
not
my
move on.
question.
Tough
No,
talk,
no
Ray, it
question.
is.
Womp.
That's not the only reason.
That's the
other
only reason.
was he wasn't funding Democratic states that he felt weren't handling the control of the coronavirus. So that's one
that's not
instant.
true
It is
either.
true.
It-
he
he
said
wasn't
he
handling
said
it.
it on
Okay,
camera.
time out.
And even
In
if it
their-
was about the
in
check,
their-
was
what
that
they
the most
felt he should
important
have.
thing that needed?
Okay.
Meanwhile,
time
all
out.
these unemployment
A lot of
rates
these
happen.
Democratic states' budgets, like New York, where we sit right now, their
Right.
budgets were a mess before the pandemic happened.
Well,
They're
and the
using
pandemic didn't happen,
They're
and it
using
wasn't
the
just
pandemic-
Democratic states. It
They're
was
using the
it wasn't just
pandemic-
Democratic cities. It was also Republican-led cities as well that
That
called
too, that
and
need-
asked for the
and
help,
got
and it
nothing.
was never presented. Remember, he was the one who told Mnuchin to walk away from a deal that they had 3 weeks ago, and he just said, "You know what? Let's just stop it." He was the one who did that.
I
His
think
own
a lot of
Treasury
Democratic
Secretary
states
was
are
surprised
using the
by that.
stimulus
So let's
as a
get
way
the
to
facts
clean up
right.
their messy financial
Let's
house.
get the
Okay,
facts
okay,
right.
so-
Okay, well, we're
so
going to do
Trump-
that on the backs of people who have lost their jobs and who haven't been able to recover from the coronavirus that are
accountability?
still there. Yeah. Where's the accountability? How come he walked away from a deal that was
He
set
gave-
in plan?
He gave
Answer that question.
he gave a stimulus package, and they didn't want to. They didn't want to agree with
Size-
it.
And then they renegotiated another one, and who walked away? He told Mnuchin and his staff to walk away. That happened 2 weeks ago. What's the answer and response to that? Where's the accountability?
So what
with that?
happens if Trump loses? Does the stimulus package go away?
Absolutely. Because at that point, Pelosi doesn't care because Trump's not buying votes with a check with his name on
And
it.
let me tell you something.
And then she'll
if
be
the
the hero.
Republicans,
Oh, we
if
saved
the
the American
Republicans
people with our
win,
stimulus
if the
package.
Republicans win, however, I still don't think there will be a stimulus package that will help all local municipalities get it, because again, there will be this block by the Republican Party, which they mentioned that they said unless the Democrats open up, their cities, or these cities open up that are still seeing a surge in coronavirus, if they don't open up, we're not going to get the other stimulus package, and we're still back at square one, right? That's been the pattern of the Republican Party when it comes to that. So this is not just the Democrats waiting, because Trump's check. That's totally totally not true.
Well, I'm glad it's not true.
These are the lies.
I
These
just
are the
sent a
lies.
photo of the parade of Amish buggies in Pennsylvania with Trump flags.
Oh, wow.
But this is the issue here, right? There are people that support Trump that know, based upon his blatant lies, that it just doesn't matter. It just goes over the head. We don't remember that. And I got to give credit for Trump for that, because he's able to gain that following despite him flip-flopping on everything that he says. And what you've even admitted.
Donnie's making comments.
Oh, yeah.
He says,
Yeah.
One of my students says, finally, it's getting very heated. This is the tough talk he's been waiting for. Donnie says, Ray, the words you're looking for is poorly managed, broke democratic cities and states.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
So, and the pandemic had nothing to do with the current state of affairs?
New York's budget was a mess pre-pandemic.
Without having
You know why New York's- you know why New
erect
York's-
hospitals
Yeah.
and turn our federal buildings into triages and all that?
And you know why New York's
think
budget was a mess? You know
No,
why their budget was
not
a mess?
agreed.
Because New York State is paying the most taxes to help states like Arkansas and Florida and
true.
South Carolina to pay their taxes when
is
they're
true.
when they're under budget because of coronavirus. So that's why our budget was messed up.
Right.
That was clearly stated. Senator Mitch McConnell and the Republican leaders clearly stated that as well, but they're soaking away the money in taxes from us in Massachusetts and California. No one's saying anything about that.
Yeah.
So my question is, okay, first 100 days, did we nail down the top 3 agenda items of the new administration? The first one you said was, if it was Republican-led administration,
It would be the stimulus
it would be
package.
stimulus, it would be Obamacare, and
Immigration policy
and you
for
said the
DACA.
immigration policy. What type of immigration policy for DACA? David?
I'm trying something. I want to answer that, but I'm doing something technological. I'm going to try to pull a little Wizard of Oz here.
Oh, does Donnie
Sorry.
want to join in? Is that what it
Let's
is?
let's take some questions
Is he
or
going to live
comments.
stream
He's gonna
in?
try, Ray.
He's going to try.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to have to take my headphones off, feed them through the computer so you can hear them, and then drop our mics.
Oh,
like I'm
when
going to have
it
to
counts, do
swap
it
so that
at simultaneous.
almost like walkie-talkies. So
Oh,
that,
shit.
You know.
So what do
It'll
you
work,
think?
though.
So what do you think about Trump catching a coronavirus and then saying that he's immune to it now after receiving around the clock top medical care from the world's
That
preeminent
wasn't cool.
doctors at Walter Reed or whatever hospital he went to, and they flow and they and have like, you know, all of these experimental drugs
That wasn't
used.
cool.
Like, what do we think about that?
That wasn't cool. That wasn't cool.
I
Do we
it's-
think we cool?
I think it's a spin on all those Americans who
coming
lost their
from-
lives.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
I mean, again, I coming from a person in his position, yeah, definitely.
In the position of what you went through.
Of not only what I went through, but just a position of how would you say, not what's the word I'm looking for, of having, right?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, there was definitely a lack of disenfranchisement with himself and the people, or those that are less disenfranchised than himself. So yeah, that was definitely.
So as a person who has had COVID and recovered from it, how would you characterize his response to being infected with the virus?
Oh, there was a lack of empathy, sympathy, everything. Also, there was also a disconnect with what a lot of Americans have to go through in their demographic, right? In their wages and their demographic and so on and so forth.
But how is that response different from how he has handled the virus, or with empathy shown to the 200 some odd thousand Americans who have passed since the coronavirus reached our shores?
Listen, I thought at first he had a humble moment, when it was those immediate that aftermath in which
He was in the
had
White
it,
House.
and then he went to Walter Reed,
Yeah.
and he got sick, and then
Yeah.
he was like, "Hey, this is
This
the
is a serious
education
thing.
about
I
it."
was eye-opening.
And then as soon as he got that juice to feel like he was 100%, you know. And
many-
there's a
many-
part of me that gets that, right? He has to show that he's strong. He has to show that he's able to, you know, project that, you know, he is the leader of the world and he's been able to fight it, right? Because of the persona of everything, he had to show that because he kept saying that there was going against the turn, you know. But for those who weren't able to survive, right? Those who didn't have that type of resource, and then even the little misconstruement that was going on between what was being reported from the White House doctor and how there was some play with how serious and when he caught it, his test results when he was campaigning up here in New Jersey, all that in effect are questionable behaviors, which we'll see tonight whether or not people believe that if that's enough for him to have 4 more years or not. You know, many people say, I think so, because so many American lives were lost. Not given the fact it wasn't his fault that COVID got here, but more so, you know, what was done in the recovery process. And then, you know, the governor here of New York says, while he did receive a lot of criticism about closing down China, at that point when he wanted to close down China, it was still too late because it was coming from Europe at that point.
He also got a lot of backlash behind closing down China, and so on and so forth.
That's right.
So,
And he's right about saying that.
He got a lot of opposition. So it was.
I agree about
He was
that.
damned if he do.
But you
and
know
he
what?
was damned
At
if
that
he don't.
point already, by the time of him closing down China, people were coming in from Europe. And this is why this became the epicenter.
Right.
So
the
where
question
did the
becomes-
intelligence come in? World Health Organization has a lot
Right.
of blame to do that as well. And, you know, and his inner circle too. And I think that's where Dr. Fauci and others, I think, deserve a lot of criticism. You know, just like people say, everyone lauds Governor Cuomo for his job and how he handled it, you know, but many people don't realize that when it came to the nursing homes and how he responded to nursing homes and how long it took for him to develop policy in terms of protecting the nursing homes, a lot of people died because there wasn't a quick act measure done with that.
And
So-
meanwhile, he's campaigning. I mean, he's you know, promoting his book right now on how he handled the pandemic, and we're not even pandemic. But people buy into it, right?
Let me pivot to David. I want to ask, what are your views on how the president has handled the pandemic here in the United States? If you had to rate him on the scale of 1 to 10, what would your number be?
6.
6.
I think he did very well.
I would agree with that.
With rallying the resources, right? With getting the ventilators and the, you know,
Changing policy on the healthcare policies as far as being able to test different
right.
things.
Yeah, I think he did good. Now, as far as like, you know, leading by example in terms of masks and social, no, he didn't do a great job.
It's terrible.
But I don't want to focus on that because we are going to try a little wizardry here. And we're going to try to bring in our guests from the natural state. I don't know how this is going to work, guys, so you got to bear with me on the technical piece because we're going to try and put him through our computer speakers without getting echo from us. So basically, it's going to kind of work like walkie-talkie style. So as our guest speaks, I'm going to have to kill all of our mics. And then to respond, I'll turn your mics back on and we'll see if this works. Okay, so...
All right, so we got to allow a couple of seconds,
We're
mind
going
you.
to go ahead and try this out. So here we go. All the way from the natural state. It's the one, the only, the irreproachable. It's Donnie Roush. Hey, Donnie, what's going on? Let's see if they can hear you.
Hi, Ray.
Hi, Donnie. Good
My
evening.
voice, Ray.
Happy Election Day, buddy.
He's really loud. Let me dial it back a little bit. So I'm hoping folks at home can hear you, but I'm looking at the... And actually, I don't know if we're getting Donnie... I don't know if we're getting feedback. Someone going to check on their phone. I don't know.
No, I don't hear any feedback.
hear any
Oh,
feedback.
you mean on the feed? Let me check the feed.
I don't think we're getting any. I'm looking at the audio. I'm looking at the audio meters.
Okay.
Maybe
Test.
someone on YouTube can let us know. Donnie, give us a quick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Let me
Test,
look and
test.
see.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Angela Stewart says no feedback.
Awesome.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Angela.
So,
Ange.
and Ange, if you want to join us too, I'm gonna send you the Zoom link, Ange. So just stand by.
I have people telling me that they commented.
All right, Ray, come at me, bro. Let's do
All right,
this.
I'm gonna pose
Go,
this.
go
I'm gonna.
to some comments, Ray, because I have people that tell me that they commented and wrote
But
some
where are they
questions.
commenting
Hold
on?
on,
Are they
hold on one
commenting
second. I
on
gotta get the screen
YouTube
off
or
here.
are they commenting on Twitter? You got to
Okay.
ask him that so that way he knows.
I believe
directly.
YouTube.
Okay.
Listen, if I've got Donnie up, I can't monitor the YouTube.
Okay, got you.
Unless you can monitor on your phone.
Yeah.
YouTube for you, Dave.
All right, Donnie's gonna watch the YouTube chat. For
Okay.
Us.
I've got your YouTube channel up. I've got CNN on my YouTube TV. I'm on my.
Let me put this on my phone to the YouTube so that way I could read it as
Let
well.
me get the joining info here.
All right, this
Invite.
is the.
Copy invite link.
Okay.
What are we up to, Dave, in our numbers?
What you have on your chat is that Ange says that she would rather stay unseen.
Oh
right.
no.
All right, Donnie, while you're here, let's continue this.
Hold on. The viewers at home can't see Donnie yet.
Oh, okay.
Let me get them up full. You guys gotta let me do my technical.
Could they hear him?
I want Cuomo talking head style, Dave.
They can't. They can only hear him through our mics until I bring them up full.
Oh, got you.
Now that I bring them up like this,
This
now
is
they
the
can hear
new
Donnie
link,
full. Go
right?
ahead, Donnie.
Howdy, people at home.
Hello.
I'm Dave's brother, Donnie, all the way from the state of Arkansas.
A natural state. You know why they call it the
Chime-
natural state, right?
No, Dave, go ahead and tell
They
me.
don't believe in contraception. Go on.
Oh, shoot.
I like to believe it's because of our beautiful parks that we have down here. You should come down and visit sometime. Take you camping. Maybe you get lost in the woods and come back.
Wow.
Was he talking to me or that?
I think that was good.
So I got tired of typing in the chat, and I was able to weasel myself into your party here, fellas.
I see the.
So I know Ray and I like to debate sometimes, and Ray wasn't liking a lot of my comments about.
I welcome your comments,
Trump
Donnie.
To bail out your broke ass cities.
Wow.
Shit.
Well, listen. If you could explain why Arkansas takes 30% of their revenue from states like New York and Massachusetts and California, and in your state governor keeps collecting them, then you know what? I'd shut the heck up. But until you could explain that, and you could tell people like Mitch McConnell, who says, I don't want to give stimulus money to these states, but they want to keep collecting taxes from us, then I would shut up till this day.
What taxes are you talking about here? Are you talking about federal income tax?
That's correct. Exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking.
They're not collecting tax like.
But that revenue,
Taxes for Arkansas. When I worked in New Jersey and New York, I never saw that I was paying taxes to Arkansas.
yeah, but your taxes,
Yeah, but it still goes.
your
federal.
taxes are higher.
To other states.
Yes, it's called the salt tax. And it's helping to build your roads and to keep your natural parks clean and to help build your revenue that's lost because of the coronavirus pandemic.
This gap is widening in Pennsylvania, just in case you're
That's what those taxes are going to. And when you were working here in New Jersey,
You were paying
were paying them. You were paying them. You were paying a lot of them. And I'm sure that's probably part of the reason why you moved to Arkansas. It's part of the reason why I want to get the hell out of here. You know, who wants to pay that?
Listen, Ray, I give you leads on jobs in Arkansas.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. You do.
I'm a newscaster retired and gets fired
You
down
do.
here. I'm sending that to you like, hey, this guy's retired. You gotta keep getting here.
Let me ask you this. You talked about the states reopening, right? Which is a fair statement. There are restaurants and businesses that are hurting, and there's no way they could be able to keep up with this. But how could you counteract that with the fact that if we keep having incidents where there is a rise and there's a third wave that's continuing the virus to keep going? Aren't we at a stalemate here? How do we open and contain the virus at the same time? And has the president done a good job with doing that?
So I think you got to look at the data, though, because I believe, and this is my personal belief, this is my personal interpretation of the data.
Gotcha.
I see that cases go up. I attribute a lot of that to
Testing.
Hold on, I got a tech
technical.
issue. Hold on, I got a tech issue. I gotta get your mic louder here. We got a message from.
Oh, do I need to move in?
No,
Talk now.
I can pull in a little closer.
I only see one comment here.
Let me.
Could you send me the other
I just like to try to sit back.
link?
Yeah, people are commenting on the YouTube.
I know, this is the YouTube. I'm only seeing one comment
I
here.
think.
Why am I only seeing
Yeah, give me a
one
little game.
comment?
Hang on a second, let me get this.
Let me copy.
Talk now.
Test, test, 1, 2.
Oh, I think that's
Open in YouTube.
good. Leilani, can you give me some feedback on that beer? Tony, try talking again.
Test, test, 1, 2.
I think that's going to be good. I think it's going to be good.
Live chat.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go on. My bad. I'm going to finish.
Dave, I think they just claimed your hometown.
Yeah.
Your saltiness tax.
Your hometown just went red.
The saltiness tax.
So, Arkansas was very briefly one of those states that really got talked about in the national media. The main reason why is that we never really shut down completely down here. There was never a moment in time where you couldn't go to a restaurant and at least get a meal for takeout. I drive around now, and my family, we take the pandemic pretty seriously. We
Yes.
don't go anywhere.
Yes,
Our
you do.
kid goes to school on a blended model. So he's at home homeschooling 3 days a week, and we personally in our family take it pretty seriously. But
That's awesome.
to go out and drive around and look at the stores and restaurants in our area, we're open for business here in Arkansas. Our economy, I would say, is
Strong. At least it appears strong from what I see when I'm out and about in the community. That said, I go back to the data, and I think that while cases are up and hospitalizations have been rising recently, but we're down for a long time, and deaths are down, I think the virus has mild it out. I think it's still something to take seriously of a pre-existing condition. But I really don't see it being the same virus that hit you guys up in the city, back in March and was killing everybody that got it. So I think there are some common sense things we can do. I agree with Dave that where Trump could have worn a mask, maybe not necessarily a mask mandate, but encouraged it a little more, been a little more supportive to it, that would help. But I don't support statewide or nationwide lockdowns. And the vast majority of the American public doesn't either. I think that
contradicts.
this goes back to the same argument that you could have on the Second Amendment. You need common sense precautions. You need to protect the vulnerable, but don't think lockdowns are the answer.
I was with you 100% on everything that you said until you made that final statement, and that contradicts everything that you said. So, I mean, either you're going to be proactive, or you're going to, or you're not. And so, with that being said, so experience from myself. So, I live probably 10 minutes from your brother. I happen to live in my zip code, happens to be, and you can actually research this, you can look this up. I live in 10467. The zip code is 10467, where we were hit with the highest amount of COVID, not only deaths, but people infections throughout the nation. I remember listening while I had it from my bedroom. So, I get that that this is real, right? And I respect, and I really appreciate that you respect and you're taking the necessary precautions. But by you saying that business as usual, it just contradicts everything that I in particular experienced when I heard nothing but sirens out my window every 2 minutes.
See, what Donnie's talking about now, though.
Are the conditions still?
No,
back when
they're
you had
not.
it in March.
No, they're not.
But they're right.
In recent days, I don't
But
That's fair.
I think the reason why the conditions are not that which they were was because we actually, because of our leadership, we took it seriously here. We closed everything down, right? We put a no leave the house order in place. We limited the amount of times you can go to out food shopping and be around. We limited who could actually leave their house unless it was for essential functions, right? And the states that didn't do that,
Right.
are the states that have seen not only a very prolonged high rate of infection, but are now seeing a resurgence or a second wave. Right? And so I think my question is, to what degree do we ascribe blame or accountability to the commander-in-chief for how he's handled this pandemic, and not only that, but the message he'd sent to states that may be political strongholds for him, that this is not very serious, and you don't have to wear masks, and this is going to disappear like a miracle in the summer, and then make off the cuff jokes like, I don't know what you want to do to kill it. Maybe you should inject bleach into your veins, and like all of the like tongue-in-cheek comments, like
on those remarks.
right.
There, I think on a
Test, check, test, check. Oh, I was just saying that I support Asa's response. I think that he took measured precautions that worked for the state of Arkansas. I think he limited where we could limit while still allowing people to keep their jobs and keep businesses moving forward. And yeah, we've had a couple of small waves, but when you look at us compared to other states, for a good long while, we had cases decreasing when 30 to 40 states were on the increase. So I think that conditions change based on how dense your population is,
Yes.
where geographically you are. So in New York, locking things down might have been essential because of your population density. But in the Dakotas or Arkansas or Missouri or in the Midwest or the Great Plains, that lockdown isn't really necessary. We have lots of states.
I agree with that.
I agree with that, but it is necessary.
Outside,
I agree with that.
which has been proven to decrease the rate of infection.
Totally
I agree with that, but then it also starts with one, right? It all started with one in China, as we so-called call this virus, right? The China virus, as our commander-in-chief calls it.
Yeah.
Right? So for us to go through that because, okay, we are a dense population, and for less denser populations to not take it seriously, that's a problem.
Listen, I would go even further than that. I would say, yes, you're right. The Arkansas, the Dakotas, Missouri, Nebraska, where there's not dense populations, and so the way in which social mitigation happens in order to combat the virus is totally different, right? And there's not condensed. However, when you look at the immediate aftermath, particularly going into Memorial Day, right, and the start of the summer, what happened in Florida, what immediately happened in Texas when Governor Abbott decided to reopen right before the Memorial Day holiday, and the immediate aftermath of all the virus cases. And granted, yes, Texas is a big state. Yes, there are about 4 or 5 large metropolis cities in that place that have a higher density populations. There's still places that have they are not as condensed as here, and yet we still saw the numbers up, right? And then we went to the summer and the 4th of July. All we saw in the news was infection rates going up in Missouri because there was parties going on at the Ozarks for the summer during the 4th of July holiday, despite the pleas from health officials in those areas to stop that, right? We're having that problem here too in the urban areas too, right?
Right.
Just this past Saturday, there's Halloween parties happening. A lot of minorities, some of these minorities who were affected and who lived in these neighborhoods are still gathering and having parties and not social distancing and gathering. So then where does the leadership come in that as to why we shouldn't have a national mandate to know, okay, let's get this over as much as we can following the science so that we can get the businesses back open.
So it says it's
but
not
then
just,
it becomes political.
It's not us versus you. It's not Trump versus us or us versus Trump. This is what it is, and it's just not happening.
Right. So that's where the issue.
I would argue though that your Texas example is a prime example of why blanket policies work even at the state level, because if your example of Texas opening up around Memorial Day, having the big outburst in Houston, because it's a coastal town and that's where everyone wanted to go to the beach, is entirely different than if you get to the panhandle of Texas. People just want to go to the grocery store. Like you have a county with 300 people occupying the entire county of hundreds of square miles. Where's the danger for those folks? You know,
So right now is one of those places in the panhandle or western part of the state that's seen a absolute increase in COVID cases now within the last 2 weeks. And the mayor just went on national TV begging another stay-at-home order because the hospitals are getting overwhelmed, right? And then you're starting to experience the same thing that we experienced here in New York. It's like, why is that stuff happening over and over again in other places when we had a model of showing how bad it was over there? So
but my
an example.
argument is that things aren't as bad as New York was in March at this point.
No,
The science wouldn't say that.
No, it's not. It's not as bad, but
yeah.
we don't know what we're going to go
data
back
says
into.
that.
And
Deaths are down.
and I'm sorry, I'm gonna play the fence
death
on
rate
this
of
one.
this virus has bottomed out. It is not killing people the way it was in March.
I'm gonna play the fence
Whoa.
on this one also.
Hospitalizations are still
Are
rising,
still
though.
rising.
The death count still keeps going. CDC keeps doing these projections. Every month and a half, they're projecting another 30,000 people dying. Some people would disagree with that.
Right, and I would say that New York in February and in January wasn't the state it was in March, right? There was a natural progression and an uptick and then an explosion of infection and correlating deaths as this virus became, more pronounced in the state. And how it becomes more pronounced is with, one, a lack of seriousness being taken by the state and local officials, and
Yes.
two, by this kind of pervasive, kind of lackadaisical approach to basic prophylactic measures like wearing a mask, right? Where is the national mask mandate? Why, after 200,000 lives, do we not have one? Why is this still a state conversation?
And then the other thing too, I guess, that a lot of people say, look, Europe is going back into a lockdown now.
Right.
And some countries in Europe were very successful because they have the legal authority, I guess, to do a lockdown and mandate to help control. Now, I could agree in your argument, even with those national mandates, Europe is seeing a surge. So, in that instance, maybe national policy didn't work in that case, right? And I guess then it becomes a subjective question as to, right, what do we see as leadership to help change, right? To help people, because it's hard to invoke people to do things on a national level in the first place, especially if it's something that we never experienced before, right? You have to have blind trust that people are following what they need to do based upon seeing the results of what happened. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, so on the mask mandate, so this is one where I'll agree with you. I don't feel that wearing a mask is a massive encroachment on anyone's freedom. We have a mask mandate in Arkansas, and we happily abide, and I think it's a good thing. I don't think that a mask mandate is a government overreach. However, I do believe that a nationwide shutdown, which was proposed by Joe Biden, is an overreach. That's where I draw the line. I think that saying, hey, look, for the next year, you have to wear masks when you're out in public. I'd prefer that would be out in public indoors, because I really don't think the science backs that this thing is that big of a threat outside. Optional outside, mandatory indoors. I'd be in support of that. I'm not in support of somebody coming in and saying, we're going to lock everything down New York style for the next X number of months or years, or till there's a vaccine or whatever the case may be.
I agree.
Good point.
I don't know what's going on in the neighborhood, guys, but there's been about 8 fire engines that have gone down.
I know.
Something
And
big's happening.
I
I'm going to have to do some research here.
I kind of want to go to some comments too on YouTube. Angela Stewart said, I lost someone to the virus. We know it's real. We aren't rejecting the virus, but also know that we could open safely. Why is the influenza death rate next to non-existent as compared to this time last year? There's another comment. Diva Ma says Trump will win PA, and she made some comments before about our audio issues as well. I'm trying to look for another comment.
She wants to chime in, by the way. She wants to go on
Zoom.
Wants to go on Zoom.
Diva Ma
Also,
also
guys,
says,
who is that?
Just to
Diva Ma.
be courteous to your viewers,
Do you know who
I don't
it
know
is?
if I noticed
Yeah.
Dave updated your count. That's because CNN's projected or confirmed that Biden has won the state of, what was it, Virginia, Dave?
oh, they did call
I don't know. I'm
Virginia.
just
Yes,
looking
he
at their
did.
numbers.
He
I
called-
haven't
he
been
called
paying
Virginia.
attention.
They call Virginia for Biden.
That's a water rescue they're responding to, guys.
I was going to jump in with that when they called it, just to be mindful of the reason why
Water
your
rescue,
viewers
that would
are
be
tuning
right
in.
here.
But we went really far down that COVID rabbit hole.
Right there.
Yeah.
So
Diva Ma also said death rate is down 85%. Samantha Jones says if Trump wins this time, he would get his border wall. Diva Ma also commented, did we shut down when 1.5 million people died of tuberculosis last year? And, you know,
These are good points.
and yes. Here's the thing that I want to comment, and here's my response
There's
to
a
that.
vaccination for tuberculosis.
That's correct. That's
There's
what's
no
gonna be
vaccination
related.
for COVID.
This is novel coronavirus. We don't know what's going on. That's what's made it so deadly in this instance. I understand that people are comparing influenza and they're comparing SARS and Ebola virus that happened, but these were viruses where clinical trials took place. We had vaccines. We had the proper time with testing, and we kind of infectious disease specialists were able to pinpoint exactly who it affects, how they affects, and what the recovery rate is. During these months, as we're still trying to figure out, we don't know. That's why it's called novel. So to make those comparisons is just far-fetched. We can't compare influenza to COVID. There's just no way that could be compared.
Well, I think the reason people are doing it is because the rationale for all of the changes in the lockdowns is death rate, death rate, death rate. No one's making the argument publicly that we don't have a vaccine, it's different from the flu. They're all just talking about numbers, 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 numbers. And when you look apples to apples, numbers to numbers, the flu has killed more people than coronavirus. So they got to make, but you got to make the argument more clear.
listen, I'm going to make it clear for everybody. The media grabbed onto this as a way to oust Trump, and it
I agree
blew up in
100%.
their face.
But yet, that's unfair.
Listen,
That's unfair.
Impeachment
That's unfair to say
No.
because you know
No.
what? Influenza and these other viruses are not disproportionately affecting people of color,
Right.
as with the coronavirus did. What's your response to
Okay,
that?
but what about asthma? What about these other
The
diseases?
rates
What
don't
about
do the
other
same.
diseases?
It's not novel. It's not novel. It goes back to that point.
And it's not communicable.
There's
And it's not
albuterol and
communicable.
there's asthma. There's ways in which to combat that.
Right.
I'm an asthmatic, and I mean that's why it affected. And I'm fairly young, you know.
Chris
I like to
Christie
think of
had
myself-
asthma and he had coronavirus and
I
he
like to
almost
think-
he almost died.
What I'm saying is healthcare is poor in the inner cities, period. Period. Coronavirus or otherwise.
Right.
That's why diabetes rates
But
are out
then
of
you
control.
can't say. But you
Asthma
can't
rates are out
say.
of control.
But you
Right.
can't say
But
then
they're
that you
applying
can't
it.
say that. But why would you say then that coronavirus then is an instance that is a political play to oust Trump? If that's the case, you blame China about that. You don't blame Democrats.
That's what he's done. That's what he's done.
Because it's true.
That's what he's done.
It's true. That
And people still have a problem with that.
It's not because of corona, it's because of healthcare in the inner city sucks.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
So let me ask you this then. If it was the case where skin cancer rates was related to coronavirus, and there was a large contingent of Anglo Americans that were dying with that, would that be the same argument? And how often does that happen?
I don't
right, because
interrupt this conversation.
more
Yes,
people,
Ohio
more
is
white
called
people
for Trump.
suffer from.
Oh,
Ohio's
guys.
called.
Trump. They just called Ohio for Trump
All right.
with its, I think it's 18 electoral votes.
But why isn't the numbers?
18, that is correct.
18 Ohio. Arizona's still in play with 76% of the precinct.
That's been at
It looks like it's going to
76%.
go to Biden.
All right, Ohio. So right now, Trump has gotten Ohio.
Yeah.
That's called for.
That's
Yeah.
part of the
What
blue wall.
was part of Blue Wall, and
He's gonna get Pennsylvania.
what's the other lake state? We're still waiting on Michigan and Wisconsin. Right.
And
Okay.
Pennsylvania. He's gonna get PA though.
All right.
What do you think, Don? He's
North.
getting PA?
You've heard my prediction. I actually sent for the viewers at home, I actually played a little game where I sent Dave and Ray my projection.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my estimation is that, of those gray states that are left, Texas goes red, entire Southeast goes red, including North Carolina. Pennsylvania, Michigan go red, and that's lights out. It's gonna be Trump's night.
No.
You think it's gonna be as big of a blowout as 16 was?
I'm not sure about that. I don't know what my final electoral count worked out to. I think it was a little closer than 16 the way I had it figured, but I really, I'm holding firm on my Pennsylvania, Michigan prediction that Biden loses both of those states because of their Democratic governors' lockdowns.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think you're right about that.
I've never seen such vitriol on social media than I did from my colleagues and friends and family from Pennsylvania, Michigan,
This is what
during the past 6 months.
This is what's so surprising.
People were livid.
This is what's so surprising, though, about that is that there is, you're essentially saying that the prediction is that there's going to be a referendum against the governor of Michigan for attempting to save the lives of people because of an increase of coronavirus. That doesn't sound crazy to you?
It's the economy, but it hurt people.
Oh, does the economy supersede people's lives? Is the economy supersedes people? Like, you're telling me that the economy is more important than the loss of an American life. That's what you're saying right now. And you're okay with that.
Saying it, the voters saying it.
That's true.
We'll see.
We'll see. I know how I voted.
We'll see. But that's so significant. That says a lot.
The voters in Pennsylvania and Michigan are going to tell you exactly how they felt about this.
Let's go to some questions and comments.
There's none additional comments. Angela Stewart said CBS is at 187 to 111. Maricopa is still due in Arizona in terms of the voting count. Angela Stewart says 240 now to 246 if Biden. If lucky, towards Biden.
Here's a comment from a person who will remain nameless, but they are.
But yeah, you can read it in the loop here.
This is a
That's
comment.
the latest
I don't
comments.
want to reveal this person's identity, but this person does work as a New York City police officer. This person says COVID-19 is being blamed on the president for the numbers. Look at the Democratic states that wanted no help when it was given, but kept going on the news for help, like the U.S. Comfort Ship that had less than 100 people on it, and the Javits Center that had less than 1,000. All federally funded and run by the military, so the government. But no flooded the nursing homes with sick COVID people. I'm not sure.
I think a lot of people get misconstrued about what happened with the U.S. Comfort and the use of the U.S. Comfort and to why it was needed in the first place. You have to put yourself, right, just like we always say, put yourself in the position of police officers when it comes to the virus, right? Our hospitals were overwhelmed. They were overwhelmed at a rate that people who weren't living here and who weren't day by day seeing the bodies that were happening, we had hospitals that were using coolers to be able to put people. Most of my family works in the healthcare system. Your brother works in the healthcare system. He was actually carting out bodies daily. The over attention was needed, and right, as a play to know that we had what we needed, and things were different. They were rolling on day by day. Hour by hour, things were changing during the middle of the pandemic. The fact that people don't understand that in the first place, and people who are removed away, looking from the outside in, wouldn't understand that. And this is where I think the president failed us in that. Let alone that, right? A lot of people say, "Oh, he delivered the ventilators and he delivered the PPE," but that was only after there was a whole bunch of push put against the White House administration for him to enact the Defense Production Act to force companies to do this when he should have launched that in the beginning. Remember, he took more than 30 days in order to launch that, and then when he launched it, he wanted to make it seem like he was doing it from the very beginning, and he wasn't. But we forget about that criticism.
He's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't.
No. That's just always an excuse that's used when there's a valid point that was given and there's no response. So what's the response to the Defense Production Act? There's no comment about that.
It's the same argument as shutting things down from China. When he shut down China, it was, you're a xenophobe, you hate Asian
And we
people.
talked about the China incident,
and
Dave.
Is, well, you didn't shut it down
soon enough.
So
Yep,
you're
he's right about
damned
that.
if you do,
But you
you're
know
damned
what?
if you don't.
But no, that's not true, because if he was right and he particularly listened to his to the proper people, he would have known that it was already past China and he would have shut down Europe. He didn't do that. Everyone doesn't make the connection in instance, and the numbers show and prove it. The science proves it. We go back to science improvement. What happened in terms of New York being the epicenter, beyond what happened in Washington, in that suburb of Washington, to that nursing home, right? The outbreak that happened here was from Europe. It was from Europe. Nobody has a response to that.
It doesn't change the fact that Democrats in the mainstream media Monday morning quarterback every decision he made. And they always flip on.
That's always the excuse instead of taking the accountability.
So I can't screen share because of the way we have to do the video.
I'm sorry, Don.
But I went and pulled two graphs from your Democratic spokeshold news source, the New York Times. Okay, so I'm gonna slide out of the way here, Ray. I want you to see. All right, sounds good. I'm going to go ahead and shut the camera off so you guys just see this image here.
Go ahead, Donnie.
As long as my video is up, you should just be seeing. I have my camera off, but this image on as background. Can you see the graph?
Yeah, we can see it, and our viewers at home. Let me take off the graphic from my screen. Okay, go ahead.
You're good. So what I pulled this is data from the New York Times. So the paper of record, especially for the more liberal folks in our country. This is a graph of the reported cases by day in the U.S. And to Ray's point, we're seeing what looks to be a third wave. So you've the first wave that came in around March, April timeframe, then a second wave coming in around August, and now we're kind of on the climb again out in November. Here's the point that I was making earlier to you, Ray. If you look at the deaths in March, April, May timeframe, back when New York City was on fire with this thing, the deaths across our country were extremely high, and they came down. There was a small bubble in August, and they've done nothing but decrease since August. So you tell me how this is data proving that this virus is miling out in some capacity. It's pooping itself out.
But that latest statistic
or the vulnerable populations have already, we're starting to get into a herd immunity.
I'm gonna give a very generic response to that, and that's because it hit us first. And not only that, we're highly populated, more populated than the rest of the country.
Nationwide numbers,
right?
This is U.S. numbers.
What's the source?
It hit us the hardest.
No, but where did New York Times get their source from?
It hit us the hardest due to circumstances. Now, as it spread, where it wasn't taken as seriously throughout the rest of the country, and when it did finally hit them, okay, now we got to take it serious, even though your numbers are not as high because your population is not as dense. And then now it's only all it's going to do is come right back. And that's why I said I'm just going to give a generic rebuttal to that?
I'll give you a specific rebuttal. Johns Hopkins University's numbers show that numbers have risen and death rates have risen and increased, have risen, I should say, thank you, in Wisconsin and Montana, a rural state. They continue to rise in Texas, particularly because the death rate in El Paso, Texas.
State by state regulation, Ray. You can't look at nationwide data, and you can't say you want a nationwide policy and then look at state by state data.
Well, but my argument against that,
state policy. If you want a nationwide policy, look at nationwide data.
My argument against that is if there is a nationwide policy, then we all could be able to lower the state-by-state data, because there isn't a nationwide policy and each state is deciding upon what they want to do, or they don't have the capacity to know about infectious disease in the first place, or have the monetary resources to keep up with the PPE. That's the reason why there is increase state by state. That's what I'm saying. That's the correlation.
I did.
State-by-state policies.
Good.
That's exactly.
They're not
right.
working. They're not working
like
because
I told it
it's
too
still
much, 'cause I don't
increasing.
feel you
If
guys
state-by-state
like,
policies would work, then
it's
if
good.
that would have been the case,
That's why
every
it's
state
water.
would have saw what New York went through. They would have followed the policy, and then they would have bent the curve. What's the response to that?
Gentlemen, remember you're on hot mics, okay? I dropped your mics down, but we got it.
And that's the point I'm making. Because if there was state-by-state policies that work, every state should have looked at New York and said, okay, I do not want to go through what New York's gone through. And that has not been the case over these last 9 months. Since at the heart of the worst day New York experienced was April 15th. We had 897 deaths in one day.
Doesn't mean those state-by-state politicians are executing them well, right? So you make a
That's
fair point.
obvious.
If
Governor
state-by-state
Abbott didn't.
we wouldn't see this.
Ron
I'll
DeSantis
concede
in
that
Florida
point.
didn't.
But you can't say we need a nationwide policy because Wisconsin sucks. You can't say we need a nationwide policy because Michigan sucks. It's not fair to treat me in Arkansas. It's not fair to lock me down in Arkansas when Arkansas is not the problem.
Strong argument.
Okay. If that's the case, then why do we still spread? If that's the case, then Arkansas should say, you know what? Don't let anybody in, right? Because we don't know how many people transmitted from Arkansas who had the virus, who spread to infect your country.
March and April,
so how do we control that?
We refused entry to our state from anybody from neighboring states that were
Listen,
considered
there was a
hotspot states
refusal
at that
here
point.
too, and our numbers still continue to rise. In fact, in New York, one of the smart things that was done here in New York to help combat it was all the mandates that were in place was done between the tri-state area. No mandate in New York was put in place unless Connecticut and New Jersey was on board, because there's constant commerce going back and forth, back and forth. And you know what? Ever since we decided not to be the case, look at New Jersey. New Jersey has seen more higher numbers than at the peak of the pandemic in March in terms of infection rates.
Statement shortly.
Infection rates. Oh my gosh, Joe Biden's making a statement in terms
Too
of
early to concede.
yeah,
He's
in terms
gonna
of
come out
infection
and say,
rates
"I'm
and
going to
whatnot,
bed,
and that's
wake
the
me up,
problem.
let me know what happens in the morning."
But that's what I'm saying, Donnie. You can't have something as the coronavirus.
Can you just do a Joe Biden impression?
You can't have.
I'm going to sleep, everybody.
You can't have an overall mandate when people. The reality is most states, even as small of a state in Arkansas, one constitutionally doesn't have the right to be able to say that you can't come in or force people to quarantine, on mandatory, not voluntary. And even now with our lockdowns and shutdowns that we had, it really wasn't. It was a voluntary lockdown, right? You could still leave your house and you wasn't getting arrested because states don't have the authority to do so. Even now with coming into New York, Governor Cuomo has enacted very strong policies for people traveling back in. But the reality is he can't control everybody that comes in. Homeland Security has the power to do that, right? That was done during the first realms with those people coming back from China into our country in the immediate aftermath after the lockdown happened. They sent them to military bases in San Antonio, Texas, and in Southern California. Well, we haven't done that since. And ever since, we haven't been able to control the virus. Australia has done it well. All these other nations have done it well, and they haven't seen a third wave surge.
You mean Europe, like Great Britain, is going into another lockdown? That well?
No, I didn't mention them. I said Australia. I said Australia. I said Japan. Other places in Asia have enacted that shutdown. And they haven't gone through a third wave. So you mentioned Europe. I didn't mention Europe.
Can you pull the can't do it when I have one hand on the audio board and the other hand on the mouse.
That's why I'm here, Dave.
I'm curious what the GDP drops were in those countries. Remember we just saw that the U.S. has the lowest GDP drop?
That's the other thing, too. This whole GDP instance, the gross domestic product and the increase, the whole propaganda, right, in the media, the propaganda led by President Trump, that the GDP has been the highest overall.
You mean President-elect Trump?
Really doesn't have the overall bottom line when it comes to everyday Americans and how it's affecting them and their money in their pockets. You know who it affects? You know who it affects? It affects the 1%. It affects the people who are the richest people in the nation. They're the ones who are benefiting for it. Not everyday people. The everyday people that you say are saying that the economy affects them and getting money in their pockets.
Depression and suicide when you lose your job and you can't leave your house. Depression and suicide.
And why did that happen? Because of COVID.
Listen,
and we can't control
I
COVID
can attest
because
to
people can't
the
get back
depression
to work
piece. I
because they're
think
getting
I
sick.
suffered from some mental health issues.
That's why. That's why. That's exactly why.
You guys' mics are off right now. I don't have my screen.
That's why we don't consider that. That's what GDP means when it comes to the highest GDP rates. That's affecting the 1%.
You gotta find a balance.
But the president's not finding a balance in that. He's projecting that as saying that he's helping everybody, and his economic policies is going to put people's money in their pocket. And get them back
Ray,
to work.
I could go tit for tat with you and say that the media has to play this pandemic and the unemployment caused as a Trump-driven issue.
I'm not saying that it is.
I've heard many times from liberal media that.
But I never said that was.
Unemployment is at record highs going into this election, and it's all Trump's fault because of COVID and his response, and that's not true. Especially when you go back to states' arguments. I think the majority of
people agree with Donnie.
I don't think so.
Well, look at the votes.
I don't think so. We're still looking to see. There hasn't been a project. He's up in the electoral map right now. So technically, if we're talking about right now, the voters have spoken. We don't know yet.
He's going to win, and he's going to win the popular.
Well, you can't say that the voters spoke when he's up 100 and something points right now. We don't know yet. That's what we're waiting to see.
Listen,
we'll see.
I don't want to bash you guys' show, but Tough Talk was not so tough till I came in.
Yeah. That's because you can't handle the truth there, Donnie, it seems like.
Wait, I can't handle the truth?
You can't handle the truth.
Ray, I'm not the one standing up and waving my arms around.
I'm not standing up. I've been sitting down the whole time. I've been sitting down the whole time.
I should probably take this shirt off. They look like they're going to a funeral.
They are.
Oh my God! You see,
at least I've got my khakis on.
This is what happens. This is the rhetoric of America that happens by going low when you can't have a response back. That's why Michelle Obama's we go high. We gotta go high. That's what happens.
All right, Ivan and Desmond, your mics are back on. So
right, this is what happens when
I said I wore red, white, and blue. By the way, I didn't get the memo of this all black.
Angela Stewart says she lost someone to suicide just a week ago. Angela, I'm so sorry for the loss, by the way, and I'm sorry for the loss.
Directly attributed. Read the second comment, Ray.
Would you let me finish? I'm letting the person know that I'm sorry for their loss, and I'm sorry for their loss they had for coronavirus. I can't do that. I'm reading through their comments.
Read the next comment.
But I'm the one yelling and screaming with my hands up. Oh. Okay.
That's it.
Angela Stewart said directly attributed to the economy crash. Technically, the voters have spoken because he is up in the popular vote. Well, you know what? Hillary Clinton was up in the popular vote too, Angela.
And we saw how that turned out.
And we saw how that turned out. So I wouldn't call that a win in any way. But, we'll wait to see. Just like CNN says, right? We have to be patient, right? We have to be patient.
Calm it down, Ray. Calm it down.
Calm it down for me.
I wish I really wish
you guys are calling the election.
I really wish you guys could see my setup because I actually have the stream up and muted behind my Zoom call with you, Dave. So I can see Ray. It's a little delayed, but I can see him when he's dancing back there. So,
All the time. That means that I've done my job right. When you have when you use my hand movements as a way of trying to combat an argument.
So I guess the question is, and it's straightforward because you guys have kind of verbally jousted back and forth, right? In terms of COVID and in returns to the response of our current president, maybe our outgoing one-term president at the end of tonight. So the conversation or the question simply is, do you think that Donald Trump has managed this crisis to the best, not to the best, appropriately, effectively?
I think we came to the consensus that it's no.
I don't think. Go ahead, Donnie.
I would say my feelings on that is no.
And what reason?
However, I don't think that Joe Biden's lock down the whole country plan is the right move.
Right.
And
So-
I think that people feel very strongly about that. And I think that's driving a lot of the results that we're watching here tonight.
I agree.
So-
I agree with you, Donnie, by the way.
So let's talk about what do you feel is one of the most glaring reasons why you've come to that decision? In terms of him not handling the coronavirus pandemic effectively.
I think that a lot of your arguments against his handling of the pandemic they carry water from. I mean, I think that he could have set a better example. I think he could speak differently about it.
I agree.
However, I do support his state rights approach to it. I think that you can't treat the Dakotas the same way you treat a New York or a California. It's not fair to the populations in those states.
Here's my
There's
counter
a reason
to that.
why, and this ties right back to an argument that I had with my fiance a couple weeks ago. Not an argument, a debate. We had a very political debate about the Electoral College, because she's one of these people that doesn't understand why we have the Electoral College. And I tried to explain to her that the Electoral College is in place to make sure that Los Angeles and New York City
right,
don't get to make decisions that impact everyone nationwide, including me in Arkansas or some rancher in Wyoming. Right? You know, we don't have a true, and this is a good reminder for anybody out there listening. I'm sure you guys are politically savvy enough to understand that we don't have a true one vote, one person, one vote democracy.
Right.
That's not the way government is structured. We are a republic. We are a representative form of government, such that each of our individual states have a say. So if you don't like what New York is doing, you can leave New York and go to a state that feels more like home. I love living in Arkansas. I lived in New Jersey for a while. I hated living in New Jersey. I don't ever want to move back to New Jersey again, although that's probably going to be in my future, just given the career path. I'll probably end up in New Jersey again.
Here's my response to you in terms of the instance where small states or rural states are not feeling the effect of the virus. My counterclaim to that is as I sat right here in this apartment with your brother for 4th of July when President Trump and the First Lady and the Trump family literally went to Mount Rushmore and had a huge event, right, that was led by the governor of South Dakota, in which hundreds of people gathered in that national park that didn't wear masks, that caused an outbreak in the Dakotas because of it. Is that responsible? Is that a way in which we say, oh my gosh, because we don't have a national mandate, or we're not looking upon the leader of the nation in terms of helping to stop spreading the virus in places that are rural, that necessarily didn't have a problem, that now was caused because of a problem, because of an event led by the president that didn't help to spread this virus? The same thing in Wisconsin. President Trump had so many rallies in Wisconsin. That's why Wisconsin is one of the states right now that's seeing a surge and uptick. And you could look at the numbers on the Wisconsin State Health Department's website as well, and the inundation of hospitalizations that occur because of all the rallies that took place in there, because he's trying to swing that state. So absolutely, it's been done. And it's been confirmed by members of the coronavirus task force that have went publicly on TV to say that.
People made a choice to go attend those rallies and wear or not wear a mask.
But the problem in the country is
it's
still
not
happening.
but
The
it's not
problem
to
in
the government,
who's
Ray.
yelling? Who's
Ray,
yelling? Who's
Ray,
yelling?
let me say
Who's
something.
yelling?
Let me say something.
Who's yelling?
It's not up to the government to be everyone's babysitter and everyone's nanny.
But it also it's also up to the ability. The president is supposed to lead the country. He's the one who's leading the country. If he's causing these people to come and gather in a place and saying that it's ignored, when he got the virus himself and he got the one to treat it, how could you say that's not everyone's babysitter? That's nonsense.
Because people have the right to make their own decisions.
And they did, and that's why the virus is spreading.
Right,
They did. That's why the virus is spreading.
If I want to go and take a risk,
that's why the virus is spreading.
It's no different than unprotected sex.
Okay.
It's no different.
It is different.
You know when
this is a national pandemic. That's why.
Right.
That's why. And there's no resource. You could have a condom. There's no protection right now for the coronavirus.
Yeah,
so it's not just like having sex. You can't compare it.
Wear a mask, socially distance.
And you know what? And the president is saying, don't wear a mask
and come to large gatherings
to infect everybody.
Right.
That's what he's saying.
Yes.
That's exactly what he's saying. Yes, he is. You can't tell me
So you can't do that. Dave, you can't split hairs.
To raise people's children, to tell them how to live.
Wow.
If you're going to engage in risk, everybody engages in risk-taking behavior every day. I ride a motorcycle.
I hope a family member of yours does not pass from the coronavirus, because if that's the case, you're stepping on them right now. I would hope. You are by saying that.
My brother had the coronavirus.
Yeah, but he survived, thank goodness. I said,
I
hope nobody does.
My brother also didn't take precautions.
He
didn't take precautions. Am I right, Donnie?
I hope
that's absolutely correct.
He was going to the gym.
But you know what? How do we know? How do we know? He could get the virus if he didn't take precautions, because he's with somebody else. We don't know that it was transmitted.
Right.
Well, we don't know that. We don't know that. But you're blaming.
How many people did he infect? How many people did he infect because he wasn't taking precautions?
I think the overarching conversation right now is not about guilt. It's about responsibility. Right? The commander-in-chief, the president of the United States, during a national pandemic, right? During a highly infectious, communicable, deadly disease, right? Where the only known prophylaxis is wear a mask and stay away from large gatherings, is calling large gatherings and telling people not to wear a mask. And you're responsible. You may not be guilty for the virus, but you're responsible.
Whether they wish to attend that gathering or wear a mask.
Oh, that's like guns don't kill people, people kill people. I mean, you can't. Oh, come on, come on. I mean, so he bears no responsibility as the commander-in-chief with a cult-like following in some areas to call a large rally and tell people don't wear a mask. And people get sick and die, and then you say, "Oh, you shouldn't have came." That's foolishness. You have to be able to ascribe responsibility.
He had MAGA masks made. So if you're going to argue, he told people not to wear masks, but yet he's selling masks or giving masks away. How does that argument
He's giving masks away as keepsakes.
People chose not to wear a mask
and fundraising props.
I really wish I could finish a sentence. If people chose not to wear a mask, the way that my brother chose to not take precautions in Pennsylvania and ended up with the virus, it is his right and freedom to be in. You can't legislate stupidity. You can't make someone be smart or stupid legislatively. Okay? You can educate people. You can advise people. And at the end of the day, part of the reason that this country is great is I can decide to go out and get on that motorcycle barefoot with no helmet on and smash into a tree if I choose. Okay? Does it make me smart? No.
So then that's the case. You shouldn't wear a helmet. You shouldn't wear that vest that you have to protect yourself and to protect your head. Why not do that? Because you're taking a risk.
Why not drink and ride a motorcycle? Why not drink and ride a motorcycle?
I choose to take precautions. By the same token, I didn't go to any large gatherings and I wear a mask.
But when you drink and you ride a motorcycle,
I remind everybody of the language of the First Amendment of our Constitution. The first line saying, "Congress shall make no law."
My mic is fine.
Respecting. Congress shall make no law respecting. And one of the items in the list of the First Amendment is the freedom of speech, right of the people to peacefully assemble.
But when you drink,
that's the case, you shouldn't criticize about protesting.
But when you drink and you ride a motorcycle,
I can't hear him.
And gather.
Say it again, Don. I couldn't hear you. Say it again.
Okay, so the position I'm bringing to this argument is the First Amendment Constitution, and I have in front of me. The first line of the First Amendment says, Congress shall make no law. Congress shall make no law respecting, and it lists a bunch of rights that we have as American citizens. of those is freedom of speech. One of those to peaceably assemble. Now, if we remember, let's go back in time to April when George Floyd died. What happened immediately following the death of George Floyd? Millions, not hundreds, not thousands, millions.
But they all
of
wore
Americans
masks.
took
They
to the
wore
streets
masks.
They did
They
not.
wore
No
masks.
They
Yes, they
did not.
did. Did you go to a Black
and
Lives
not a
Matter
word was
protest?
said by the
Well, I
liberal
went to
media
one of the biggest
about
ones
the
in the US.
virus
They
and these
wore
riots.
masks.
Listen,
Okay.
listen.
They wore masks.
And
I'm
now you
listening.
fast
I'm
forward 6
responding
months
back.
to where the virus is milding, not killing people the
It's
way it
not
was back in
milding
April.
out. It's not
not
milding
lying either.
Was the
But it's
argument to me
It's
that
not milding
there
out.
should be a law passed that because of Donald Trump, there should be a law that he cannot have a gathering above some certain number. It's a bunk argument. You have to treat
But
all
Donnie-
things the same.
Yeah,
So
Donnie,
you
they're
want
not
people to
milding
take
out.
our First
Well,
Amendment
they're
right
not
to
milding
gather,
out.
then
That's
you
the
can't
problem.
gather
You're
to
not
protest the
looking
next
at the science.
asshole.
They're not
kills
milding out.
somebody.
Listen, say that one more time, Donnie. You can't. Go ahead.
You cannot make it law to say that Donald Trump can't have a rally if you're not going to also make a law that says that you
I
guys
agree
can't
with that.
gather and either peaceably protest or riot and burn down your city the next time some
I
asshole
My
agree.
argument
kills
against that,
somebody.
they're wearing
In
masks.
fact,
One,
by
the
order
Donald
of
Trump.
the
Yes, they are.
Constitution,
Yes, they are. They are wearing
President
masks.
wears
And
masks
two,
to defend and
and two,
uphold.
they're wearing masks.
That's his
and
job.
secondly,
That's the job he takes an oath to
And
do.
secondly, he's not
You know,
promoting
as the
people
president,
not
I
to
will
wear
defend
it.
and uphold
He's
the Constitution
he's
of the
being
United States of
negligent.
America.
Double
That's
He's
he
being,
says
there's no
he is
double
the
standard.
so
It's
here,
negligent.
can I
Okay.
respond?
This is basic civics 101.
Right. So,
The president's
can I-
responsibility is to defend and uphold the Constitution.
Got
Part
it.
of that responsibility is the First Amendment, which mandates that our government shall make no law impacting our freedom of speech or our freedom
It doesn't
of
address it for a pandemic.
So can I?
No, it doesn't. There's no pandemic clause.
And there
in the
needs
First
to be,
Amendment.
obviously, because 225 lives have lost.
Well, then
which you don't
every-
care
then
about.
every
it seems
BLM
like.
then
You don't-
every
you don't
BLM
see- you
protest
don't
better
see-
be ended.
You don't,
All
you don't
right.
see-
Every BLM protest better stop.
So can I respond?
Yeah.
Can I
Yes.
respond?
Bring it.
Here's what I would say. Then the organizers, and I'm gonna play down the middle, right? Then the organizers of the BLM movements, right? If they were to say it is okay to assemble, to violate social distancing, and not wear masks because there's not been any proven scientific correlation
what they did.
between masks and wearing masks and protecting yourself from the virus, and the president did the same thing, both parties are equally culpable. I'm not saying I'm not splitting hairs to one or the other.
Opposing. You can't sit here and tell me the president's an ass for holding a rally when in April, when this thing was raging, you guys were in the streets burning down your cities.
So here's what I would say. First, I don't think anybody in this room was in the streets burning down
He
anything.
said you guys.
Right? And I was,
Watch these
I was,
you guys.
and here's the deal. We said earlier in this show that rioting and looting is not the appropriate way to express disapproval of governmental procedures or for deaths between minorities and interactions with police.
But I think
my
what Donnie's
conversation
pointing out-
is, let me finish my thought. My conversation is any actor in this particular environment, governmental or private interests, that encourage people to gather without a mask. If infections ensue, then both parties are equally culpable. And we can't say, oh, well, the president, he's not responsible at all because people chose to
listen,
come.
let me
That's
take your own
foolishness.
argument one step further. I agree with you.
I agree
that
with
if
you.
Oh.
you hold-
I
if
agree with
you
you
hold
too.
it-
Oh, but there's
BLM
been no
protest or
admission.
rally-
No.
We've been talking, you've been putting it on the victim for like 20 minutes.
Listen.
Oh, you showed up. You're a jerk. You got it because you deserved it.
Donnie, I know
Come on.
I know exactly where Donnie's going. Go ahead. I know. I'm right there with you. Go.
So I agree with you that both parties, whether it's BLM protests organized by George Soros,
Agreed.
or rally organized by the Trump campaign,
Right. Equally
causes infections. That is what it is.
I agree.
Okay?
Thank you.
I agree. But
Take it one step further and say, but the First Amendment of our Constitution states that Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of
Which is
religion
essentially
or
blaming-
prohibiting
You're going back
free
to blaming the
exercise
victim.
thereof,
No,
or
no.
the freedom of speech or the
Here's the
right
other
of
argument I'll make.
But I never
peacefully-
posited about law. My point was about responsibility. Never said law. You guys got caught up on the law thing about Congress and
How
and,
do you
and the
hold people
Constitution
accountable
or
to that
whatever.
responsibility?
We're talking about responsible
No,
responsible
but answer
interactions
this. How
and
do you hold people accountable? You say they're responsible. How do you hold them accountable?
how we hold them accountable. It's
You
not
say don't hold them
you
accountable by following the law. That's what you say.
No,
Yeah,
you
that's
hold
what
you
you
hold
say.
them accountable by saying you held a rally in I don't know
you'd have to do that legislatively. You'd have to enact some legislation.
in
All right.
Wisconsin, and it was 50,000 people there. And out of that, we've been able to trace back through contact tracing that 300 or 400, 500, 1,000 people were sick
use the bathroom.
because of a rally that you put on and told people to come through. You're responsible for those illnesses. Right? I'm not talking about you go to jail, but you need to own the fact that you're culpable in the transmission
the only way to
of
do
this
that-
virus.
the only way to do
Doesn't
that-
have to go. Nobody's got to go to jail, but you've got to be.
But even if you talk about civil liability, let's not talk about criminality. Even if you talk about civil liability, to hold someone responsible, you're going to have to draft some kind of legislative notice, whether it's an ordinance, a local city ordinance, or a state bill, or a national federal law. And that is, in Donnie's argument, would be in direct violation of the First Amendment. I'm going to go a different direction.
It's not, and that's why when he was having rallies, he had people signing waivers because he knew that what he was doing was going to lead to an uptick in the virus.
So let me.
That's exactly why.
Let's take some comments
because he knew about that.
We've divulged a lot of time on this
one more thing
on this topic.
And that is the big difference between what you saw with the Black Lives Matter or whatever the protests were, okay, in April, and the Trump rallies. The biggest difference for me was the way they were treated and interpreted and handled in the mainstream media. You did not hear
This
the
is first leader of the night.
You didn't hear the media let out a peep about
took the
the
lead?
large crowds, the social distancing. Nobody said a word in the mainstream media about the violation of.
Not to interrupt, but Florida is called for Trump.
Yeah,
Florida
they
just
just
got
called Florida for Trump.
And Pennsylvania's
29
next to fall.
electoral votes,
So, but you guys get
215
what
to
I'm saying?
165.
What I'm saying is, the media did not give the same treatment to the BLM protests, okay, with the crowds and the gathering and everything else, as they gave to the Trump rallies. You can't have a double standard.
That's
you
not true.
can't.
That's not true.
Whether you talk about legislative or consequences or culpability, liability or not, when you just talk about the attitude with which the media handled it, it was night and day.
I don't agree with
It
that.
was night and day. You
I don't agree with
never
that.
heard CNN hosts criticizing BLM organizers.
Oh my gosh. Just like you never heard Fox News Channel criticizing those rallies.
I didn't say Fox was. I didn't say Fox
But you
was.
just mentioned
sides
CNN.
I said
you just mentioned
mainstream media.
CNN. But you mentioned
Okay,
Fox,
so
and then
mainstream
you
media,
made
fine.
mainstream media, then you
Fine.
went right to CNN. You can't. That's the argument in the
Well,
poster that you take
and
out all the time.
Biden's
Come
speaking
on.
now. I'm told. Biden is speaking now. Are they going to take him? We might be able to
Biden
delay
can make
that.
a statement.
My lower third says make statement shortly. I just got. John
No,
Biden,
they're
the
going to him
tech
right
raider.
now.
What do you
Stand
think?
by.
What do you think he's gonna say?
I don't know.
He's going to say that we're making a lot of progress. It's looking
He's gonna
pretty
say
good.
we won, people, we won.
No, he's saying I'm going to bed. We'll check in with you.
Yeah,
Right.
he's guys.
he's
I'm
a-
a little sleepy right now.
Donnie, I'm going to take you down and put up.
I'm gonna mute you guys.
How political is that she's wearing a mask next to her husband? Seriously?
The car horn thing is so weird.
We believe we're on track to win this election.
Why is it CNN?
We knew because of the unprecedented
It's on pause.
It's on pause. I got you.
It's going to take a while.
I think he's gonna create a division right here,
Until the hard work of
which is
tallying
not
votes
cool.
is finished. And it ain't over till every vote is counted. Every
See,
ballot
he
is
created a division right now.
Yep.
Sorry to tell you, people.
No.
That was not nice. That was not cool.
I don't
That's
agree.
not cool. So why make a speech right now?
Because you know what? There's people out there who've been waiting in the cold, waiting for him to address. It's okay. People have done that before. It's not unusual. He wants to address them and to know that he's here, and there's nothing says that he can't do that.
And we're
Okay.
still in the game in Georgia, although that's not what we expected. And we're feeling real good about
He's way behind
Wisconsin and
Georgia.
Michigan.
He's way behind in Michigan.
And by the way, it's going to take time to count the votes. We're going to win Pennsylvania.
Oh.
I've been talking to folks in Philly, Allegheny County, Scranton, and they're really encouraged by the turnout and what they see. Look, you know, we can know the results as early as tomorrow morning. But it may take a little longer, as I've said all along. It's not my place or Donald Trump's place to declare who's won this election. That's the decision of the American people.
Is that
Absolutely.
divisive?
But I'm optimistic about this outcome. And I want to thank every one of you who came out and voted in this election. And by the way, Chris Coons and the Democrats, congratulations here in Delaware.
And the ballot stuffers in Pennsylvania.
Donnie, stop.
Hey, John, the Gov, yeah, the whole team, man. You've done a great job. I'm grateful to the poll workers, to our volunteers, our canvassers, everyone who participated in this democratic process. And I'm grateful to all my supporters here in Delaware and all across the nation. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And folks, you heard me say it before. Every time I walk out of my grandpa's house up in Scranton, he'd yell, Joey, keep the faith. And my grandma, when she's alive, yelled, no, Joey, spread it. Keep the faith, guys. We're going to win this. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Donnie
Patience is
back.
great. Let's walk over here.
He said, "Let's walk over here."
Yeah.
Let's walk over here.
Vice President Joe and former Second Lady Jill Biden thanking.
Is that Jackie Wilson?
Let's take some comments. Let's take some comments and questions from.
Kara's been waiting in the wings. Donnie, we have someone who's going to join us in Zoom. You want to bring Kara in?
Yeah, let's go.
Exciting.
All right, here we go. Let's see if we can do.
Am I gonna get in a fight somebody? Who is this?
We're going to find out. Kara, are you there?
All right.
Says Kara is connecting to audio. Hello, caller. Kara, do we have you? All right, we can't hear you, Kara. You try to get.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Kara.
Hey, what's up,
Hey,
guys?
guys.
Hey,
Hey,
how are
Kara.
you? Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks
Kara,
for
can you do
thanks
me
for
a favor?
joining
Can you
us.
hold your phone sideways for me.
Like how?
Like, take it from this way and go like that.
I gotta look at the other phone. Wait, hold on.
He said, let's walk over here. Yeah. Let's walk over Vice President Joe.
Can you guys see me? I don't
Kara,
know.
I just need you to hold your phone sideways.
You want to look at my buttons?
No, we
No,
want to
no.
see the full screen. So you got to turn it. You got to turn it the other
Hold
way.
your phone like this. Hold it like a TV screen instead of like a phone screen.
Oh,
There you go.
There you go.
you know what it is? I'm using my daughter's phone because I have you guys on YouTube and my phone.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I
This,
can't
this
even
is definitely
see
a
you guys on-
multi-screen operation. You gotta have multiple screens here. I'm running on 3 right now.
I know my tablet in the car. That's the problem.
215, 165.
He said
yeah,
Trump
guys.
wins Ohio and Florida. He won
Oh,
Ohio
you
State.
see, now I see
Can
myself
you,
talking
can
in
you turn down
YouTube.
the volume on your YouTube on the other phone for us so we don't get
Yeah.
the echo?
I got you. Yep.
So, Kara, we had a very hot debate just a moment ago about protests and rallies, and you're muted again, Kara. Just check your microphone. Check your mic. You're muted on Zoom. On Zoom.
Yes. All right.
About the idea of, protests that took place in April and May versus Trump rallies that were held, later on in the election season. What are your thoughts? We see you got Trump buttons on, so I could probably guess where you're going to go on this. But what are your thoughts?
I think I voted for him. No, I think it was riots. Absolutely. So first of all, these riots not only occurred in April and May. We're talking about June and July after George Floyd was murdered. So there were all these protests, all these riots, all these looting, right? No one had mask on. Thousands of people marching the streets. All the Democrat governors and mayors allowing people to be outside with no mask. It was okay because they were making a statement. They were fighting racial injustice, right?
Right.
Now you see a Trump rally where the vast majority of people aren't wearing masks. He's a
Thank you for being
COVID
honest.
spreader. He's a disease spreader. It's a bias, and it's formalized by the media itself. I mean, let's be real. If you watch CNN, there's a high probability that you hate Trump. Now, when I get into it with someone and I say, "Why do you hate Trump?" It's always the top two reasons. He's a racist. He's an asshole. Okay, can you name 5 policies he's enacted? Oh, I don't need to know that. Well, yeah, you do. Because if you don't vote for Biden and you don't know what policies he wants to enact to this country, how can you really determine who's going to be a better candidate for this country?
Here we go.
It's a bias. It's a bias. And I it gets me so upset that it's mostly the Latino and Black community that really give in this bias. They don't want to do the research. Everything is COVID, COVID, COVID. Listen, we had many pandemics. Obama and Biden went through a pandemic, H1N1. Millions of people were infected. It was the difference. It was communicable, but it wasn't deadly. That was the difference, right? But it still killed millions of people. I'm sorry, thousands
I don't
of
know if
people.
it killed millions.
No one knows that because they didn't report that on the media. It took Obama 6 months to declare H1N1 a pandemic. It took him 6 months to declare a state emergency, a national emergency. Trump did that within weeks, not even, probably within days. Do you see what I'm saying? It's a bias. I just get so irked when people don't know what they're talking about.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
I'm so glad for your comments, and thank you so much for tuning in and giving your honest opinion. When it comes to, I think you're absolutely right, and that was part of the debate that we've been having for the long time in terms of, when does it matter between the protests that were happening and in terms of the instance of the instance of George Floyd. And people not wearing masks, and then comparing that to the Trump rallies, right? And that's a fair argument. In the instance of President Trump and his rallies, however, I'm downplaying the virus and essentially making fun of people who are wearing masks and doing that over and over again, right? While it doesn't make anything that the Black Lives Matters protested. Do you think there was more negligence on the part of him doing that and causing these gatherings, despite the fact of him saying that you're not supposed to wear a mask and making fun of people who wore a mask, and how that helps to stop and spread the virus? What's your response to that?
So I think there's a vast difference between telling someone you have to do something versus giving someone the opportunity to make that decision for themselves. So there are people. This is what the thing we have to understand about the president. The president has to play both sides. He has to appease both sides. When we're talking about people like myself who are anti-mask, right? Because we believe in what the science is claiming. When you're telling me I am mandated to wear a mask, I'm going to have a problem with that. But when you see someone who is more afraid, more paranoid, right? I need to wear a mask because a mask is the only thing that's going to save me. Then we're talking about a whole different demographic. President Trump had to appease both sides. I don't think he was being negligent at all. I think he was being honest and truthful. If you look at the back of a box, right, of these masks that are not even sterile, let's be for real. They're made in China. They're not made in a sterile environment. It clearly states on the box that it will not protect against COVID. Dr. Fauci himself initially claimed that mask will not protect against COVID-19.
But that
That
but
was his initial
but
response.
I think
It minimizes.
I think what happens is, and that people don't realize, and this is the argument I was saying earlier, is that it was novel, right? What was predicted at the beginning of the pandemic totally changed within the subsequent 4 to 6 weeks of the pandemic. And that's because it was novel. We never experienced this before, and we were learning more and more as it was going around. I think a lot of
Right.
people kind of harp on the instance of what he said at the beginning and what has changed at the end, but he's been forefront in saying what I knew then and what I knew now is different. And what we know day by day when it comes to this virus continues to change. Remember, there was the instance even back in the early part of the pandemic, at least here in New York, where there was the child inflammatory disease, right? And we thought for an instance the disease was focused on infecting children and infecting children in a big way, which caused almost like 4 or 5 deaths here in New York. And then that changed. There's just been so many
Well,
ongoing
here, okay,
changes.
so let me touch base on that really quickly. When we're talking about the child deaths that occurred, we're talking about a disease called Hashimoto's. Now, a lot of people don't know what Hashimoto's is. Hashimoto actually is derived from vaccines. It's actually an adverse effect that can occur from a vaccine. So let's be technical here. Why were there only a small amount of children
I'm not disputing.
infected and
I'm not
huh?
disputing that. What I'm trying to explain to you is that there's been change, right? And to necessarily put a punch about change of something that our lead infectious disease specialist had said at the beginning of the virus, and then how he had to walk it back, given the fact that this is an ever-changing virus and we're still learning about it to this day, is a little bit irresponsible, right?
I totally disagree. I
So
totally
I
disagree
have a
with you.
question. So is it safe to say that you are a firm believer in survival of the fittest?
No, I'm a firm believer in knowing how the body works, knowing how to protect your immune system, and taking care of yourself. I don't think it has anything to do with
That
survival of the fittest. I think survival of the fittest is just a mindset, right? But when you
no,
talking
not
about
everybody's
a
born the
lead
same.
infectious disease like Dr. Fauci, he's the lead direct doctor, right? And he's not telling people to take vitamin D, vitamin A, vitamin C, elderberry, zinc, simple things, right? That can strengthen your immune system and allow you to combat COVID-19, the flu. Let's be for real. If your immune system is strong and you come into
Not everybody
contact with
has a strong
COVID-19
immune
or the
system.
flu, you might not get sick, or if you
But
do get sick,
Might.
you're gonna get mild
But
symptoms.
you can't make that comparison to that because the coronavirus affected people who had weaker immune systems, right? It went after the people who were most vulnerable first, right? So we can't assume that everybody it has a strong immune system, right? That's part of the problem that we have with
Okay, but
healthcare,
here's
right?
the
That is
thing.
another
It was
topic.
it was about it was about letting the public know. Listen, this is one way that we can tackle this virus. Dr. Fauci did this. He never got on camera and said, "This is how we can tackle this virus."
Because I don't think he
Everyone,
knew. He didn't. I don't think he knew at that. Nobody still knows.
listen, Dr. Fauci knew. Dr. Fauci knew. Let's be for real. In 2014, Dr. Fauci, okay, and Obama funded the Wuhan lab. They sent over $3.5 million to the Wuhan lab in 2014. Okay. In 2016, Dr. Fauci went on and gave a speech and spoke about a pandemic that would rise in the next presidency. He
Right,
knew there was going to be a
which,
pandemic. He
yes,
knew. He
and
knew what it
I'm glad you
was.
brought up
He
that
knew what it
point.
was about.
I'm glad you brought up that point because President Obama actually wrote a 6 month pandemic plan that was part of a
He did.
budgetary agreement that he made an executive order for that he had written and laid out of things that should be followed if and when we have a pandemic. That was totally ignored, right? That was ignored by the White House administration. A lot of people don't know that.
No, that
That
is
could have
true.
been laid out to be followed and that could have possibly saved lives, right? So I
So
think
let me
you're
ask you a
right.
question. So let me ask you a question. If Obama allowed H1N1 to run rampant and he didn't even know it was a disaster. What makes you think that it would have been his plan would have been any
Drink.
different with COVID-19? I'm just curious to know.
I think it's irresponsible to compare H1N1 with COVID-19. They were two totally separate viruses. The effect that the viruses had compared to another was completely different. And because of the instance that it was new and the way in which it came about and how it spread from person to person, which we were able to know more information at a quicker manner when it came to H1N1, is uncomparable.
In terms of mask, I just want to ask you. It's like, I make the analogy. Why do we wear seatbelts? Right? We wear seatbelts because for safety. I mean, it goes along with the same question of why is it prohibited whether or not a person can drink and drive, right? It's not only about saving yourself, it's about also saving others. So again, when looked upon, the freedoms of, the freedoms that we have as citizens of the United States, I have to ask myself in terms of this whole pandemic, why doesn't it not apply the same? Why doesn't it apply the same?
But why doesn't what apply the same?
What,
That's what I want to know. Like, why doesn't what apply the same?
why don't the ethics? Why don't the ethics of salvaging another life other than your own apply?
So he's making essentially the comparison of if people wear seatbelts in order to help prevent others from losing their lives, why can't the same be said for masks?
Or drinking and driving.
Why can't the president? I'm sorry, you guys, you cut off. I'm so sorry.
I'm
Why
sorry,
can't the president what?
You gotta be nice and loud to this mic.
Yes, I'm so sorry. The mic is so far away. The question on the table was, if we have seatbelts that are mandated, right, for us to be able to save lives, how come the same instance can't be compared to when it comes to mask, right? It's a preventative measure.
Because the mask is not efficient. There's no proven science that states a mask is going to protect you from COVID. It says it clearly on the box.
says otherwise. The CDC says otherwise, and that's
the CDC. Listen, the CDC. Let's be for real, okay? The CDC is funded by people who aren't even doctors. Okay, the CDC claims that vaccines are safe, yet you can have adverse effect of death.
White House coronavirus task force leaders and Deborah Birx also promote masks. That's led under the Trump administration.
I'm sorry, say that again.
The White House coronavirus task force coordinator, Dr. Deborah Birx, along with the COVID Democrat. Czar. They were put in place by the president.
To this coronavirus hoax.
But they were put in place by the president.
So wait. Can I ask a question?
Of course.
When you use the word hoax, what are you referring to? The coronavirus being a hoax?
No. The coronavirus is real.
Okay.
I'm talking about the way they've played the COVID-19, the way they shut down the economy, the way they formalized all these lockdowns. It's a hoax. Okay? People, let me tell you something. The flu has been around over 100 years, right?
Yes.
All of a sudden, scientists are saying the flu has been eradicated by 98%. Really? So that's funny. So all these years we've had flu. Thousands of people die a year of the flu. Last year alone, over 85,000 people died. 1.5 million died from tuberculosis, which, by the way, is a highly communicable, contagious disease. We're talking about tuberculosis can be spread airborne.
But there's a vaccine for that.
Which we have a vaccine for.
There's a vaccine for
that. A vaccine.
Right.
Okay, this is what people don't understand. Okay, we have a vaccine.
Right.
Why did 1.5 million people die last year?
From what? The flu?
No,
from TB.
From tuberculosis.
She's got a point. She's asking if there's a vaccine, then why do people still die?
That would be that I think that's a healthcare issue, right? Which is another problem in our nation, and I guess we could get into another debate about that, right?
So let me ask you a question.
1.5 million people died from tuberculosis.
Will be efficient.
I don't know. I mean, that was part of the debate and discussion that we were talking about now, right? Once we do have a vaccine, how do we convince the American people to want to take the vaccine, right? Because of
You
all
can't.
this
Can't.
political jargon
I
behind
listen.
it.
This is a country of freedom. I'm free to do what I want with my body. You free to do what you want with yours. I don't believe in mandating someone to take something that, first of all, has not been proven to be safe.
That's right.
Second of
But the
all, has
president is
side
saying it
effects.
is.
I'm
Mind you,
listen.
the president is saying it is.
The president can say whatever he wants. The president has never said he will mandate the COVID-19 vaccine, though. Like I said, the president has to appease both sides. Initially, and let's be for real, initially, Trump's response was therapeutics, UV therapies, and disinfectant. When that happened, people assumed that Trump was saying to inject bleach, right?
They
So
assuming he said it.
the conversation shifted
I think he was
from
being
therapeutics,
facetious.
UV therapies, and vitamin D from the
But
sun to we're gonna have a vaccine. Why? Because a lot of Americans believe in vaccines,
so
but you also
so
have a
so
lot of
so so
Americans that don't. So you have, being the president, right? You have to appease both sides. You have to appease the anti-vaxxers and you have to appease the ones who believe in vaccines. I don't believe in vaccines because I was injured by a vaccine. For the rest of my life, I will have to live with an injury from a vaccine. So
okay.
for someone to tell me I am going to be mandated to take a COVID-19 vaccine, absolutely not.
Yeah, and I
You're
agree.
not putting that in my
I
body.
agree.
Right, but what happened to all the other vaccinations against smallpox, against whooping cough, against all these things that we receive as toddlers and as young people, and that we're mandated to have before being able to even start grade school, that has basically eradicated those diseases from polio, right? From our common, from an everyday occurrence, right? So vaccines, there is no vaccine that you can say that is man-made or that is synthesized that's not going to harm, injure, right, or may have adverse effects to a very small population. And I'm very sorry that you had such a negative reaction to a vaccine as you shared
Well,
with us.
but let's
But
be
that's
for
not the
real.
common
So
case.
let's
There
talk
are
about
millions of
religious
people who get
beliefs.
vaccinations and don't have any adverse effects and have no negative effects and are live very healthy lives.
Well, that's not true. That's not true. You can't really say that because if you know toxin can remain dormant in your immune system, and the moment something happens in your life, whether it's depression, stress, high anxieties, panics, things of that nature, those dormant toxins that have been in your immune system can wreak havoc. And this is why so many people are sick. United States is full of sick people. Millions of people are sick. People don't understand is an adverse effect
COVID.
is not just an autoimmune disease. An adverse effect can be muscle pain, bone pain. It can be diabetes, high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, anything like
From a
that. These are all
vaccination?
adverse effects listed on the CDC. So for someone to tell me that I will be mandated to take COVID-19 vaccine that has not been proven to be efficient. I mean, let's be for real. We have a flu shot every year and it only has 10 to 20% efficacy.
Have you
It
gotten
hasn't eradicated the flu. Why haven't we been
because
able to eradicate
the
the flu?
flu
We have a shot
the
that
flu
people take
virus,
every
you
single
know
year because
why?
there are different
I'll
strands.
answer the question. You know why? Because the flu virus, and the reason why we have to have updated vaccines every single
It
year,
comes in
because
different strands.
that's correct. And that's why it's
Okay.
forever changing as well. Just like the virus that we are in now that we're trying to figure out. And we don't even know from this vaccine, right? This is why the clinical trials are so intense and are elongated to know that there's not different strands of SARS-CoV-2. That
So-
even with this one vaccine, whether or not we may need another vaccine, and
So-
it's forever changing.
Just speaking out the box. Speaking out the box, right?
Yeah, you gotta talk loud.
Speaking out the box, not taking a side, right? Because that's who I am. That's what I bring to the table. So my question is to everybody is, do we quarantine forever, right? Because you're talking to somebody that, you know what, the quarantine is necessary. I went through it. It's not fair that somebody projects their sickness because they don't want to adhere to regulations because of their rights, versus are we going to actually do this forever? And the reality
economy
is
can't take
right.
it.
And the reality is our economy can't take it. You know, we can't take it psychologically, and so on and so forth. So it's not so much that I'm playing devil's advocate, but I want to pose it out. You know, I want to put it out there that okay, when is enough enough, and when you know, and what is going to happen next? Because neither candidate has put that out there. Neither. Right? And after
I
tonight,
think
after
right now,
tonight,
at this moment, at this stage that we're in, I believe that we're past that stage, the lockdown stage, the quarantine. I think we're past that.
we
I
are.
think
To
that
what?
therapeutics have
To
been
what
advanced
though?
in these
To
past few
what? To
months.
what
I
end?
believe that people are taking better care of themselves. I believe that we have reached a certain amount of herd immunity. Whether people believe it or not, asymptomatic, people were
I don't
saying
know.
they've been
We're gonna find out
asymptomatic.
Dave,
now.
can we
I
pull
feel
up the
like
graphic of the map
people
that's
experience
98% red in the United
all
States, and then refute the fact that we have a herd
all types
immunity?
of strains this virus, from just having a mild headache to having no sense of taste or smell, right? um
Right.
how can we achieve herd immunity if we still in lockdown? And let's be for real, Joe Biden wants to lock the country again. What will this do to the psychological?
But
What will this
but
do to
why?
economy again? We're talking about people who went back to who retracted back to alcoholism, drugs, suicides, way up. People dying of cancer because they weren't able to see doctors. So yes, we're trying to save people from COVID, but inadvertently we're hurting millions of others.
Well, I think that's a valid point.
So is it really worth it is the question. Or can we just say, you know what? We have to open the economy, we
Right.
have to open our country, and we're gonna have to
And let
learn how to
everybody
deal with
just
this
mix
and live
and
with
let the
it the way we
strongest
learned how to live
survive.
with it with the flu.
Was that the quintessential factor in your decision? Was that the quintessential factor in your decision that that there's the fear that under a Biden presidency that our country's going to be locked down again because of the coronavirus? Would you say that was one of the main reasons?
Well, I mean, no, let's be for real. Joe Biden has said clearly that he will lock down the country again. And no, I mean, I know several people who had COVID-19. And they immediately called me, Michelle, what do I do? I mean, not only, I'm very knowledgeable in medical and how to take care of your immune system
Have you
because
taken a
I've
test?
seen both sides, right? I know how to take care of the body holistically, naturally, instead of having to take all these toxins and chemicals in your body. Let's do this the natural way. If everyone was aware of that, we would have had way less people dying. And another thing, many people who died of COVID died because of intubations. Anybody who gets a pneumonia, you have a 50-50 chance of not making it. There were thousands of people put on ventilators that didn't need to be on ventilators, and subsequently they died. So we have to look at all aspects of how this virus was handled, not just by the president, but we have to put our focus also on the medical, on the healthcare industry, the millions of dollars that they made from all these deaths, how they were making a lot more money if people were diagnosed with COVID-19. They were making a lot more money by intubating people. I feel like a lot of people were dummies. I feel like a lot of people were used to increase the death rate and have people running around crazy, afraid, scared to just walk outside,
Wait, you just
scared
want to
to
get it
kiss
right.
and hug their
Get it
mom.
right.
I'm gonna be honest with you. And I didn't wear a mask at all. I saw people always wearing masks. I didn't wear a mask at all. The moment I started wearing masks, I got sick. But you know what? With all the therapeutics that I knew about, not even 3 days, I was back normal.
All right. All right. Kara.
I know people who were diagnosed with COVID
Michelle.
19 positive.
Yeah.
And because of
No.
everything that I told them to take,
No, it's
from
Michelle.
turmeric
No,
to
it's not.
ginger
He
to
just
garlic
ask him.
to elderberry, vitamin A, C, D, zinc, lemon, honey, they were good. They were better.
Listen, before we let you go, because
Yes.
we got to go. I just want to get, what's your final prediction as we look at the numbers here? I mean, I know you're supporting Trump. 215 and 171. How are you feeling? Do you think he's going to come out victorious?
CNN's a little delayed because I'm watching Fox News. They have Trump 213
Yeah,
and Biden at 237.
Yeah, they're a little bit more. Their
I'm gonna be
decisions.
honest with you. I think the only way Biden is win is if they did it. There's no way. There's no way that there's more enthusiasm for Biden than there is for Trump.
All right.
When you see the rallies that Trump has brought, 58,000, 60,000 people lining to go see him, versus Biden have
Did you hear those
35
numbers,
people,
David?
100 cars. The enthusiasm isn't there. When you see the followings on social media, you're talking about 2.5 million people versus over 25 million people following Trump. When you see how many people were censored for following our president and for advocating for him and speaking the truth, and they censored all the Republicans and all these Democratic social media accounts, never censored, you know that Trump is going to win.
All right.
Now,
All right.
do I feel that he lose? Absolutely. But it would be by cheating. There's no way that Biden will win against Trump and a clean fight. Absolutely not. This is why they had mail-in voting. This is why they had absentee ballot.
Yep.
This is why all these riots and looting and all this Antifa, all of this happened so that people could be afraid to go vote in person. And with all this mail-in voting, they were able to do whatever they wanted. I mean, look at ballot harvesting.
All
They
right.
found
Well, listen, we
several
gotta
people that ballot
cut
harvesting.
you off, Kara, because we gotta go. But we want to thank you so much for your comments and you sharing
Thank you
your
for coming.
personal stories and you tuning in. It really means a lot to this group, and thank you for
Pleasure
watching.
to you all.
All right.
And let's hope 2020, Trump 2020, baby.
All right. Thank you again so much for your comments. Of
Thanks,
course,
Kara.
Thank you.
as we hear,
Have a good night, guys.
you too.
Good night.
Listen, fellas, is definitely different sides of this story. It's a debate. It just shows how polarized we are in our different ways, and we'll see if we know tonight or if we know tomorrow. So from Arkansas, from all over in between, and Donnie too. Thank you so much, man, for joining us, man, in this conversation. It was so important to have you and your analysis and to give the different and other side perspective. You know what's the great thing about doing this? And this is what we discuss about all the time, right? Right, fellas? Is that, we could have our spirited debates,
Right.
But at the end of the day, we're
still friends.
We're still friends, and we still
That's
respect one another, and we can still move on.
Which is something
Wait.
that's missing in this country.
Yes.
Right now.
Wait. And I definitely want to chime in on that. I've been, throughout this last year, maybe a little bit more, I've been chastised by my own family and friends, exiled, just for having not so much of a different opinion, but just challenging the popular thoughts. And that's been really tough. Speaking for myself, with what's going on, I like to look at the issues and not look at parties. And it's been really tough to undergo this political climate that we're going in right now. I was actually blessed enough to be tapped on the shoulder to run for city council, but it was for the Republican Party. And I had to gracefully and graciously refute, because I just thought that it would be detrimental to my political career. And that was hurtful, because, I'm a person that, I stand for what I believe in and what's best for the people, and rather than a party. So it's been a really tough year, and I'm thankful to have this platform to express that.
And I'm thankful that you're
Thank
here
you.
to be a part of it, and for you to be so honest as you have been tonight, and for everyone.
And you know what I'm thankful for?
Yeah.
I'm thankful for apple crisp and potted grapes.
Yes.
That's right.
So I think we need one pretty soon.
Absolutely.
Let's do it. Let's
But not before we get a key race alert.
Key race alert.
Key race alert.
All right, Nebraska seems like it's going in Biden's direction
Well, just
right
the
now.
One electoral.
One district, that's
CD2.
right. So 94% of the vote in, and I think the other one was Missouri. what was the other
Donnie,
one
we packed up
outside?
some apple crisp and we're shipping it to
Maine.
Arkansas.
Maine.
It'll get there faster
Maine.
than an absentee ballot.
Maine's going there.
bet.
Electoral votes. All right. So listen,
Thanksgiving.
yeah, happy Thanksgiving. All right,
Better
listen.
make it for Thanksgiving Day.
Donnie, what did you think of that our last guest?
So I know that Ray, I know that when you and I debate, you probably think I'm like you're a great Republican conservative challenger, but she was a little further right than I was. I think. There's a lot of stuff that you said that I agreed with, some of it that I didn't. But
is that
possible? To your point, everyone's entitled to their own opinion.
Yeah.
That's right.
One of the things when you guys were just chatting about still being friends even though we have different opinions and I'm sorry I missed your name, but your guest in the middle talking about how he's had a tough year.
That's
it reminds me I tend to float between the dimensions. I'll
Same
watch
here.
some CNN, then I'll flip over to Fox News, and I try to get both sides of the story. And Don Lemon this week actually had the nerve to go on his show and tell the world he has had to essentially weed all of the Trump supporters out of his friends and contacts this year.
And that's exactly
I felt was just terribly childish. It is the exemplification.
Big win for Trump in Texas.
Wow.
38 votes.
That changes.
Fox called that one a half hour ago.
Yeah, they did.
But yeah, so I mean, it's not a good culture that we're in. I've got a couple of stark raving liberal friends, and they come over and we cook steaks, and it's all good. We don't always see eye to eye,
Right.
but at the end of the day,
No,
that
it's
makes
unfortunate.
America
So
great, in my opinion.
coming from a personal standpoint, I mean, it's been divisive in my family. It's been really it's been really challenging, to say the least. Aside from COVID and everything that we're going through, but this political climate. Thank you. This political climate has been even more detrimental to family and friends. And again, it's not because I've chosen or pledged allegiance to any side. It's just more of, as a teacher, I just challenge thought. And it's a shame that when I do so, that it's automatically deemed in this cancel culture environment that these things play out. And
hopefully we come together unified as one, whatever the outcome.
But
happens,
it's very real. It's very real.
Yeah, the cancel culture needs to end. It's really bad.
Yeah. All right, listen, we're going to take a bathroom break and kind of regroup here and figure out.
We have to determine what our out time is going to be, because we all do have work
We all
tomorrow.
have to work tomorrow, so we're going to regroup and we'll come
So
back.
do I, but my commute is like 15 seconds from my bedroom to my dining room. So.
Yeah, I know.
All right. We'll come back in a couple of minutes, and then we'll kind of wrap up and say goodbye and see what the latest is before we kind of hit the bed. So.
All right. We'll be back in a moment. All right, welcome back, guys. Well, it is 1:30 in the morning on the East Coast, and I know that all the action has been over there on the couch tonight. I've been trying to do the technical stuff, but we're reaching a point in the night where, those of us who have jobs, we have to get up in the morning.
That's right.
We're going to find a point to wrap up here. Let me go ahead and swap cameras so we can see where all that action is over there on the couch with Ray, Ivan, and Desmond. There they are. In all of their glory, the large Oreo on the couch.
Yes. To wear white, man.
That's it.
I was trying to wear the red, white, and blue. I didn't get the memo with this.
Well, black is the color of mourning, and so since we have our Biden supporters in black, I think it was
doesn't mean I'm not a Biden supporter.
Listen, I never said who I voted for.
Is that why you got a black shirt on, Dave?
Exactly.
You know what? Why am
crying tonight? Well, gentlemen, listen.
It's like Superman. I open it up like this.
He's his own little Oreo with his white T-shirt.
That's right.
Yeah, that's what they call it.
The sweetness is in the middle.
Well, gentlemen, listen. We're still waiting to see certain states that it comes along. But I think we had very spirited debate tonight, and I think each of us did a great job. And I hope our viewers thought that the same. And thank you so much for those who are tuning in to know that we could see both sides to this very contentious presidential debate as well. So, as we leave here tonight, your quick thoughts.
I think, as always, it is always a good time of food, fun, and fellowship. Anytime we come together, it's such an amazing group of spirited and intellectual and engaging people.
Amen.
That are a part of this incredible broadcast. I always have a bunch of fun. There's never a scarcity of topics for us to talk about. And I love the way that the show is evolving, right? And the way in which every broadcast, our second one in 4 years, is kind of maturing, every time we do it. And so I'm looking forward to 2024.
Donald Trump Jr. versus Michelle Obama.
Right.
Is that a key race alert you're calling right
now?
Is
you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Donald Trump Jr. versus Michelle Obama.
What happened to Mike Pence?
Mike Pence, no. He's going to be right behind Ginsburg.
Andrew Cuomo running against
Cuomo. No. Cuomo's going to be the mayor of Hawaii or something. I don't know.
That's hilarious.
Maybe he'll name a bridge after Daddy there.
Oh my goodness.
So,
but awesome time, and thank you, David, for an incredible job as always, working the boards and working
my
the
blurry
feed
camera
and the glory camera as always. You are a technological wizard, and really appreciate all the support. And I had fun.
Ivan, you got pretty personal tonight, and I think it really helps in terms of resonating with people. That's why we do what we do here, right? And that's how people could be related. And how do you feel about what happened here tonight?
I mean, it was awesome, man. I definitely finally had my platform for those of you that tuned in, or will tune in if you care to, and even if it goes on record as to where I stand on many issues. I've always been steadfast on the issues, what I feel passionate about. And I never had a problem with changing my changing my viewpoints on different issues, depending on if I've been convinced or I've seen differently. And I think that's what our country needs. I think our country needs to stop this black-white side and not to be, no pun intended. It just needs to stop being one side or the other. There's different issues that we are passionate about, and that's on one side and versus another. And so it has nothing to do with a side, but rather than dealing with the issues at hand, and dealing with them individually, and accordingly, and and uniquely as they deserve. And again, for me personally, and I know I'm not the only one, but there's a lot of us out there that that we do want to speak on things, and we're not able to because of the climate that we have right now in our country, whether it be because of our commander-in-chief or not. And I hope that regardless of whoever wins tonight, we move forward. And I say that wholeheartedly because the last thing that I want to see for the next 4 years is more divisiveness.
I second that and agree with you with that. David, it's so interesting because it's nice. I think every time we get to hang out, what's great about our relationship is that we are constantly having mini tough talks. And the opportunity that we get a chance to kind of share this on this stage and to include Desmond and Ivan is always so much fun, don't you think?
And here we won't get thrown out of a restaurant like we almost did in Westchester that time. Remember that? You remember that? Maybe you don't remember that because of the amount of drinks you had.
Very, very vividly. But look, we're still here in your living room, right?
That's right. And we haven't been evicted. That's good.
That's right.
I don't know if you noticed, but those lights behind you, they haven't changed lately.
Oh, they're still on red?
Yeah. I wonder if they know something we don't know.
Well, they should have been blue a couple
times. That's what we call a Republican House. What's your final thoughts about what happened?
Well, first of all, I echo all of the great comments that were made in terms of just having a group of people who can get together and just talk and just debate and disagree on certain things and agree on other things and have candor, right? And be open.
Yeah.
Because that is so lost right now in our society.
Yeah.
So lost.
Agree.
But it's fun. And I hope we do this more often than every 4 years.
Yes, you got that right.
And who knows where we'll be in 4 years. We didn't know 4 years ago if we'd all be in the same place.
That's right.
That's right.
As jobs and life moves us around and things like that. So it's really exciting to be able to be back here. And every year we get a little bit more technological. We add some lights and some, whiz bangs and some ding dings and, make things a little more interesting for everybody. But it's a ton of fun. And Montana just went for Trump. So, and I'm glad that Donnie was able to join us. And Michelle was able to join us.
Thanks,
Michelle, we apologize for calling you Kara.
Yeah, sorry.
I guess that's what happens when you use Kara's Zoom account. So, just remember that, Michelle.
Hey, I make a pledge, gentlemen, that, as we look forward to
that when Trump wins, you'll wear a red hat next week?
No, not that pledge. But that 2022 we'll do a midterm elections.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Show and
I'm glad you're pledging. I haven't pledged yet.
I concur with Dave that we need to do this more often, and I hope we engage more people, and that we hear the real backgrounds of people. There's not a platform where there is many of us getting a chance to share thoughts.
Trump is going to make a statement.
Well, I don't know. Are we staying on for that, or are we?
Well, shortly could mean an hour from now. They were saying Biden shortly, and it was an hour before he said, "There's Pennsylvania, man. Looks like a dang a giraffe. Little spots, right? Little spots of blue. Penn State there in Center County. No, we do got to wrap up because we do have real lives and work and rooms full of students, both in person and online. We have to face tomorrow and. All kinds of challenges, but no, it's been fun.
It's been fun, everybody.
We'll do more, and I think I know where the election's going to go. I have a sense for where I think it's going to go. I called it in 2016.
Well, why don't you tell everyone what you're calling for the end of the year? Oh, we're not going to call that, huh?
Oh, no. We're not going to call that publicly. I'll have the Democratic hit squad coming after me. No. Listen, Hillary lives in Chappaqua. I ain't taking that risk. She's 30 minutes up the road. But no, I think there's going to be some big things happening before the end of the year.
All right.
All right. So, guys, thanks so much for joining us.
Guys, everybody be safe out there. All right.
It's been a ton of fun. I hope that you enjoyed it. And we'll see you here in hopefully less than 4 years. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.